Oh, sorry. I did not even open my mic in Facebook. Greetings, guys. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I just want to say thank you for joining us. I opened this mic and we are in Clubhouse and Facebook. So I just wanted to say the topic today, unfortunately, it's not the title that you see in Facebook, but the topic is mainly in Clubhouse says countless risk of being an Equatorian in South Sudan. This is actually a second part of the last time we had on the first part of the countless risk, the countless risk of being an Equatorian in South Sudan. And the reason why we put this question is because right now, as Equatorians, we are really risking everything for the sake of South Sudan. I know some people who are not into the, intellectual thinking might see what we're saying might look like a little bit of a bothersome or nuisance. But if you look at it in another way, another perspective, this is actually part of the issues that we are facing, because you cannot have a nation without a thought. You cannot have a nation without a thinking, and to be a nation, you have to be prepared mentally into the idea that you are a nation, because a nation is an idea of what people want to be. You can be a tribe, you can be combination of tribes, you can be whatever. And so we as Equatorian, we were a combination of tribes, and we have evolved beyond what the Europeans have ever thought of us before. And I could even assure that, attest to that, because our ancestors, when they brought us, this revolutionary movements, they were already in agreement in how many that this is they are fighting for a cause to defend themselves from the foreign invaders, because they never seen themselves as foreigners. They saw themselves as allies, brothers, family, equals. And that's why they fought against those who are coming from outside. Of course, some people will try to, call our history started from 1800 or 19th century, somehow like that. But our history is beyond that. Our history is even beyond biblical time, because our people lived and stayed in that land. And so for these groups who are trying to kind of like disrespect and discredit our people from standing for their right, it shows me that this is not right. And let me just read here an expert of what I'm trying to read here, and then I'll give a chance to Dr. Alma and then Didi. Uh, that was the main topic I wanted to say here. If you don't mind, let me just read it quickly. The main thing I want to say: love your neighbor, but don't pull down the fence. Love your neighbor, but don't pull down the fence. The reason why I said that is that because when we become a nation, we have to understand that we have a principles, we have objective as a people. And those who actually undermine Equatorian rights to be a nation is because they never understand the feeling or the thoughts of what nation is. I mean, they are living still in the ecstasy of South Sudan, because of the South Sudan ideology that when we become a nation, we are going to exit the Arab remnants of Khartoum, and they will never, oppress us. But unfortunately, Arab have never left South Sudan. Still, Arab are existing in the South Sudan. Today, we could see the new Jalaba, as we call them. But that's not even the main thing. The main thing is that South Sudan have been controlled by a tribal ideology, where people believe that they are, dominant because they are majority. Even this term of majority, we don't even know where it started. Maybe Dr. Alma or Dr. Hakim can enlighten us in that. But from my understanding, I never seen that majority could play a role. But today you could see those guys defining themselves majority just to silence others. That you guys cannot speak in anything. So again, I would say this to my fellow Equatorians. My fellow Equatorians, our objective as independent, as people who call for independent or great Equatorians, our objective is based not on hate or or anger, as some people perceive us would be those who are calling for separation. Our main separation is a natural right, a demand of the people by Equatorian people for independence. Because our independence is not something that based on the hatred that some people would try to perceive, is based on the ideal that we Equatorian trying to preserve our history, heritage, and the thing that we lost when we became part of Sudan and also became part of South Sudan today, because we never seen any progress within our community when we are in this, we are merged with this group who are different from us in the mindset, in the ideals, and all we see ourselves always victimized and also subjugated to believe that those ideals is our ideals. And that's why today you see some people will begin to claim that they are South Sudanese. South Sudan is not us. South Sudan is a terminology that we belong to the south of Sudan. The Sudan word that came out from those Ottoman Turk claim, giving it to the people of that land who call them the Sudanese, which is the land of the black people, or the kingdom of black, which is yani Balad Sud. And then we begin to perceive it as something, you know, acceptable, agreeable, and we never felt offended by it or even appalled by what is being called. So this name is actually an insult instead of a name to be called a title. But unfortunately, of course, our people for centuries, and in addition to the Islamic ideology, our people embraced it, called themselves Sudanese, even though Egypt was not Egypt for centuries. But us, we were called Sudanese. When we know the ancient time, the land of Kush goes from south of Egypt up to those Victoria waterfall that is known now Victoria Waterfall, which is even ironic because that waterfall is not even Victoria's waterfall, but they claim it based on colonialism. And up to this one, we're still holding the name of this white woman, calling her Victoria Fall. Coming back to our territory, Equatoria, of course, we know that we are falling in the equator land, and I'm just putting in a brief, but it does not mean Equatoria is our identity. But what makes Equatoria unique is Equatoria became something of acclaimed and accepted a new ideal that Equatoria, the new future Equatoria that will unite, and we already united, but to bring us to the moment of future of unity among other nations around us. But unfortunately, of course, we know our lands have been occupied or been taken from us, annexed from us, based on the colonialists in the ancient time, during those colonialist time in 1800. Hello? Who's this? Oh, Dr.
Oh,
Alma? Sorry.
sorry, I think my mic went.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good, Dr. Alma.
I am not sure whether my mic was muted all this time. Sorry.
No, no problem. You're good. You're perfect. So what I'm trying to say is that at the end, Equatoria became a symbol to us, even though we know we have an ancient name. I believe our ancestors had a name to unify them, but we lost it. But it doesn't mean that it's all lost forever, because if we get peace and security, we will definitely reclaim our historical, lost archive or knowledge about ourselves. But what needed to happen is that we need to bring security and peace. And this peace to happen, Equatoria must stand for themselves and defend themselves and build and remember that we Equatorian people, we are a community who are embracing each other for the sake of improvement than compared to the others in South Sudan. That's why in the past we even believed that the people in Upper Nile will have the same perception, but unfortunately, the people in the Upper Nile and Bahar Ghazal, they had a different perception. When we came to the Anyanya, later we found out they don't even accept us. At the end, they began to go against our ideals, and today we are paying the price as a generation of 20th century, 21st century, who actually understood that the mistakes of our ancestors must not be repeated in our time. Some people want us to continue, observing these mistakes, continue say we are Sassanese, and just not to talk about it, not to challenge it, but to say we are Sassanese because this is where we are. No, we have lands. What about the land that we have taken from us? How could you reclaim it? Are you going to tell Kenya, please give me my land, or Uganda, give me my land, or Congo? Of course, he cannot, because these countries are sovereign, are supported. But what we can do, we have a different way. And I know some people even say, how can you achieve your separation? Well, you don't have to worry, because separation is not something out of just a desire, or out of just somebody will one day wake up and say, I want to divorce. Separation is a program. is a program that we are working on it to make sure that this thing happen, and we don't have to ask anybody for our right because we were never been part of Sudan, But the unfortunate thing is that the European forced us to be part of it because of their own interest. But we know who we are. We are Equatorian people, and what woke us up as Equatorian is the time that when we became South Sudanese, because the time when we were coming together as South Sudanese, then we find the discrimination and the hatred against our people, and that's when everything became clear to us. And this is where the risk of being South Sudanese became so clear. Being in South Sudan, there's nothing come out in a greater perspective. All we see is that we are always oppressed, always opposed, always against our right. Even today, our elders, or those they call the chief of our villages, cannot speak without permission from others who are non-Equatorians. And this is kind of like really something challenging. And plus, the governors that we have in Equatoria also playing a bad role to empower Equatorians. So we have a lot of war to fight. We have the intellectual battlefield. We have also the physical side. We have also the geographical side also, and then don't forget the economical side too, because we are also behind. Dinka today are empowered because they have more the assets in their hand, based on that they are the majority of South Sudan. They're the one who fought and died for South Sudan. For us Equatorian, we are nothing but just numbers that could be forgotten, but we are not going to allow this. Equatoria must separate, and of course I know some people will have a doubt because they never understand the bigger idea behind separation. So I don't want to go far. Let me welcome Dr. Alma, Miss Didi, and Dr. Hakim Dario. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, guys, go ahead and speak your thoughts. And Dr. Alma, of course, we spoke a lot, and also remember the letter that we spoke about it earlier, the letter that those guys have represented to the White House, which we question it itself because that letter sounds like it does not fit what they have said, and the letter also was missing. Scan has completed. Warning. Three letters only left. Sorry. Click fix issues to resolve. Yeah, so go ahead. 3 letters only left, or only given, and the rest are not there. So what does that mean to you, from your own perspective, Miss Dr. Alma, when they were saying that this is the letter they gave to President Biden, and yet they could not give us feedback or explain to us. Just they posted out there somewhere in those pages, and they never even got to explain it why this letter was only 5 requests from the United States government, when it does not even bring the true issue that even the return of the refugee are not been put in the paper. The land issue are not put in the paper. uh, what else, like all these other things that we could remember. If you can remember, go ahead, because but I know the land issue and the return of the refugee to their resettlement of them back to their territorial area are not even given in that paper, but only they think about the government financial assets must be stopped, and then going back to the idea that we need to remove the regime to bring a new regime, and they feel like they are the regime because they never put anything else. And plus, also the credibility of the letter, there is no name behind it, only just South Sudanese in diaspora. So that by itself is a question mark. So please, Dr. Alma, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Neighbours.
Excuse me, guys.
And
Sorry.
I'd like to thank everybody who's here on the panel and those who are listening and on Facebook. Yeah, we looked at the letter, and the letter that was submitted during the rally. We, as concerned South Sudanese and Equatorians, we have got the right to look closely at that letter which was handed. And my question is, was that letter actually written by those people who are involved in the rally? Was it a letter that was written by a certain group, or was it open to those people who have actually taken, who has organized this demonstration, who have initiated the rally? Because from what I know is that rally the idea of the rally came from a group of youth, South Sudanese youth, with different tribes and different backgrounds. They came together and they thought, enough is enough. We have got to do something about it, about the regime in Juba. So then all this opposition, they said they will come in. And of course, what they did, they came and took over. So my question is whether, and that will kind of explain things.
Sorry, guys. My network, my apologies. Again, I have to apologize.
Who are you talking to?
I'm in Facebook. Please hold on a second. Just this thing shut off. I cannot. I know people in Facebook cannot hear the clubhouse. Just a second.
Over.
Yeah, now back.
That idea, because the same thing has happened in the rally or demonstration which took place in Sudan. Some people came and hijacked it. They were complaining about this. This is a question. Now, when it comes to the letter itself, when I looked, because I looked only briefly, I was multitasking and everything. I looked briefly, and actually the page 3 is very important. Page 3 is important because of the name of representatives. It's not there. So the page 3 is really very important. As McCartney said, we can always request this as, it's our right, and that will be under the freedom of, asking questions or freedom of, I don't know how to put it, freedom of information, sorry. So we can get it through that because it's supposed to be a public document now, and everybody could have access to that. So this is so it will explain page 3, and it will explain exactly who were the people who signed it, and if there is anything missing. We talked about the request they put. They didn't include the land issue, which is the major issue in South Sudan actually, and this is why we are here. Why people are fighting all over the country, because people have been taking other people's land. So why didn't they mention that? I don't know whether it's in that other page which is missing, but I doubt it. Because that page, I think it has got only the signatories' names and signatures. So, so that land issue is really very important. And then there is another issue again, which was missed out. And they say, the fact that a sort of like, setting up a judicial system which will look into the impunity which is, in the country, up and down the country. There is no rule of law. So we will have to do something about it. And the UN were going to set up this sort of like judicial system to look at all the corruption and then all the killings and everything which has been happening. This is also something which should have been put in that letter, and it's not there. So I leave it here. Other people have had some other concerns. So these are the things which we can look at. And without page 3, we cannot comment further. Maybe there are some things which will also draw our attention.
Sorry.
The letter that the letter submitted could have been one of two. Either that letter was
is the same letter, but missing page 3 conveniently, because they don't want people to know who have been the authors of that letter, because it might bring some problems. But of course, we will know in a short while who have done that. And then the other thing, the one thing is that, that page could be, that letter could have been written, and but of course we will know in a short while who have done that conveniently. The other thing is that the letter could have been a totally different letter, and that idea just hit me straight away when I looked at the letter. It could have been that, they wrote this one for our convenience, but another different letter was submitted. So we will have to wait and see. Okay, now about our topic, the countless risks of being an Equatorian in South Sudan. That's a big question. Okay, there are so many risks of being an Equatorian. The first risk.
Sorry.
It,
I wanted to ask you a question, Dr. Alma, on that matter. Good thing you mentioned the countless risk of being an Equatorian in South Sudan. Let me ask you this. Based on what we're seeing today, we have noticed that most of that today, just being a South Sudanese in itself, have jeopardized even Equatoria to able to stand or to cultivate things that's supposed to just be an Equatorian. And I felt like what we have noticed now today, Equatorians are becoming more on, you know, almost like pressured to be part of those other group who are not Equatorians. You know what I mean? But I mean that Equatoria have a different culture compared to the people of Upper Nile, Bahar Ghazal. Do you think that in this South Sudan, we will lose our culture? That's the first question I want to ask you. Do you think that this being part of South Sudan for the future, even if today, not today, we're not feeling it, but in the coming future with the next generation, our generation or the generation after us, do you think we will lose completely our identity as Equatorian or will become assimilated to the idea that we are South Sudanese, like what happened in Upper Nile and Bahar Ghazal? Because today I see people of Upper Nile, they cannot differentiate between themselves. One day they will say, yes, I am from this tribe, but yet we are all one people because we are Nilotic. And yet they will be in conflict in the same time. Do you think we will be in that kind of category based on assimilation, what we see right now? Thank you. And do you think this is a risk by itself?
Yeah, thank you, Odysseus. Yeah, it's a good thing you mentioned that, because I was just going to that. I was just going to say that the major risk that we are facing as Equatorians is existential threat. And this existential threat is really driven by so many factors. One of the things is losing our culture, and then losing our identity, as Equatorians, losing our identity, losing our culture, losing our, in that same thing, losing our rights as a people. Let me just talk about losing our identity. The Equatoria now, even from what that Emmanuel Ajawin was saying, that Equatoria didn't exist. And some people are saying Equatoria is a tribe, and so on and so forth. And also, you have seen with your own eyes when Salva Kiir didn't want the name Equatoria to be mentioned, to the extent that when he decreed his 32 states, the first thing he took is to take the name Equatoria so that it disappears. And Equatoria came back again when the states were restored back to the 10 states. It just shows you how these people are trying their best. All the Nilotic tribes are trying their best to erase the word Equatoria. And now what they are doing is the culture, attacking our culture by imposing their culture on us, bringing the cows into Equatoria, obliterating our farms. This is a culture. They also dug the graves of our people deliberately. Bedur ya jama'a, Junub Sudan de kabir gadur shunu. How big is South Sudan? And we are only in South Sudan, we are only about 5 or 6 million people only in this massive land. All this Dinka and Nuer and Shuluk, they left their land and they came to Equatoria. And what they did in Juba, they dug the graves of our people and they built buildings on it. This is by itself, this is genocide. In a way, genocide does not mean only killing. It means wiping away your identity. لما المغابر بتاع أهلك يكون ما فيشين في محل ده معناته you don't exist. You have not existed in that place. يا جماعة Equatorians have got to open their eyes. مغابر بتاعنا في جوبا ده بتاع أهلنا ده Equatorians كله مش قولوا كله مغابر دي شالوا ال قدام بتاعت أهلنا and they took it. إنت عندك شوية قروش تقدر تشيله تدفنه somewhere else. This is what they are doing to us. While they brought Adum bita John Garang is there in Equatoria, while ours is taken out, dug out. People who follow Nilotics have got to think very carefully. Really have got to think very carefully, because these people are hell-bent in taking our land. Ma bas den kabaram, all of them. They are hell-bent in taking Equatoria. Look at what Riek Machar is doing in Western Equatoria. They even told this Ayo to go and bomb Magabir Bitat Zande chiefs. Because of the fact that the way we build our ancestors build the Magabir, they couldn't do it. They went all the way to Tombura. You know the grave of Tombura, Sultan Tombura Zatu al-Sommu Aleu Mahalde, grave بتاعه فوق في راس جبل. They went there and they started hitting the مقبرة ب-RPG. They wanted to break it. They broke part of it, but they couldn't. لأنه the way our graves are built is very difficult to do it. So this is the systematic erosion of our names from our land. And they are doing it all over the place, Jama'a. It's not only in Juba. It's not only in Tombura. It's everywhere. This is the same corrupt system which is there in Juba. They are wiping the Equatorians. And then, as somebody put it, they will kill 2 people today, 3 people Bukra. In the evening, they will kill another 4, and so on and so forth. So they are doing it beraha. And then they will attack Western Equatoria, then they will attack Central, then they will attack East. And then they will go back Central, West, and then East, and so on. They are doing it systematically. And this is the existential threat which I am talking about. Wiping our name out of our land, and then at the same time backing it with lies, saying Equatoria does not exist. Equatoria only existed as what all this nonsense which they are talking about. Our people have got to open their ears. Nasal Busofugu Sambala Lebagi, those tribes who use violence, who use really very horrible sort of culture. The culture بتاع rape. Hasa already this is a new imported culture to Equatoria. ما في كان حاجة زي ده في Equatoria. So they have changed the Equatorians to become violent. Now, when they have been doing this to us, we have been learning that we have got also to be violent. So our youth, some of our youth have decided, okay, if this is the way you are doing it, we will also start being violent to you. And this is in the end, without realizing our culture is changing. زمانك منو كان بيضرب زول في إكواتوريا ما في حاجة زي ده. These Nilotics, they always fight over everything. الليلة لو في بيت they take her, they abuse her, and then you will see the fighting, and then after fighting and killing themselves, then they will sit down and do the marriage. ده كلام شنو ده؟ في عندنا زي ده في إكواتوريا، في زول راجل بتاع إكواتوريا كان داري يزوج بنت حتى ولو بيحبها قدر شنو؟ هل هو بيمشي بيغتصبها؟ هل هو بيمشي hijack her? abduct her? ما بيحصل زي ده. If he does this, even the girl will say, no, I don't want to marry you. This is something which we have seen. لو الليلة في شوية حاجة مشكلة بسيط بين عيال تلقى ناس كبار بخشوا فوقه وببدأ شنو they hit each other and they start تلقى الدم يدفق وشنو. إحنا ما عندنا حاجات زي ده. We reason with each other. We plead with each other. And they see it as weakness. And that's why maybe some of us, the Equatorians, are following these people because they know now violence pays. When you are violent, everybody will be scared of you and nobody will touch you. You will be untouchable. And this is really the worst thing we have inherited from them. And now, أخلاق بتاع لأنه هسا أنحنا يمكن الكبار we know how to live peacefully with our neighbors. But what about the generation? The generation الحسا بتاعكم ده generation بتاعت إيال الأمور يعني 25 26 27 كده ماشي ل 30 هم شافوا شنو؟ شافوا إلا violence. So Equatorians يعني حسا الكالتشر بتاعهم يتغير كله لأنه شافوا violence. شافوا إنه إنت لما تسرق تكون زول مرتاح. يهو ناس ديل إلا بيسرقوا يشتروا لهم عربات يسرقوا يبنوا لهم بيوت and this is the only thing they can do. وشافوا إنه you don't have to work because you can just steal and you can live comfortably. So all this, the culture of Equatorians have changed. If you doubt it, just go to Juba there and see how the culture and the nature of the people have changed. And people can just kill تشوف لك dead body هنا بس تنط راسه تمشي. You don't even blink an eye. And human life has become so cheap. And then the other thing is the morals. Morals have gone يعني مشى أكتر من Sodom and Gomorrah. You hear some horror stories. رجال متزوجين ما بيحترم البيت الزوجي. نسوان متزوجات ما بيحترموا البيوت الزوجية. إيال في بيت they can do whatever they want. بنات صغار they can just go and befriend the oldest guy in town just because of money. So all these things. And this is where we are, لو أن إحنا ما شفنا كويس, we as Equatorians, we are going to get finished. Because a people by their culture, a people by the way they live, a people by their language, and so on and so forth. This is what identifies us as Equatorians. But we are being pounded from all directions by these people. يهو أن إحنا بنشوف they use Equatorians to hit other Equatorians in order to break them down. لو لقوا في جروب قوي زي جروب ده بتاعت Equatorian Nationalists, they are using other Equatorians to break them down. They are using أجهز Equatorians, the well-learned ones, and then they will tell them انت اتكلم مع جماعة بتاعكم ده يا أخي, they are really they are doing united, they are breaking down our dreams, they are doing this, they are doing that. So stupidly our people will go and start beating us while they don't do this to their own people. زي ما في ناس كتار mention here, الناس دول ما عندهم separatists, sorry, لكن they don't deal with them like how they are dealing with us here. They want to talk about Equatoria as if it is something that belongs to them, because our people have opened. يا جماعة أنا لو ما فتحت باب بتاعي في زول تاني بيدخل في بيتي. ليه ناس بتاعنا ده الإيكواتوريانز ما قاعدين يشتموا السيبراتيست بتاعهم في Upper Nile? This is a question I want to ask them. ناس القاعدين يقعدوا يجروا ورا جماعة ديل. Why don't Equatorians, نفس Equatorians ده القاعدين يحاولوا ديل, ليه ما بيمشوا بلحقوا السيبراتيست البتاعت Upper Nile ده؟ انت شفت حسا كيف؟ If I mistreat my family members, do you think other people will treat them better? They will treat them worse. If I abuse my family members قدام ناس, do you think they will be respected? حسا أنا لو ناس جوني في بيت بديت أشتم في زوجي, ما ناس ديل بضحكوا وببدأ يشتموا في زوجي كمان, يقول شوف راجل الأب. So يعني Equatorians, you are changing. So the best thing for us is just to cut clean, and we will be able to do that. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Didi, you can say something.
Yeah, I was in Facebook, my bad. Just want to say, yes, guys, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you, Dr. Alma. Let me give a head straight to Dr. Hakim, and welcome to those who are here. Please go ahead, continue.
Yes, thank you. I hope my voice is clear.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah. I've looked at the document and I realized that there are no signatories. It just talks about representatives without saying who those representatives are, and that's a real flaw in the document. Is unprofessional, and it's not the way how to put together a historic document that really represents the voices of the people. So that's one. So and that really undermines the impact and effect of this document as a historical artifact that can be relied upon and referenced. So it will not create a very strong impression on the authorities in the US. And of course, there are lots of other flaws in the document in the sense that it's probably written in rush and it seems to be echoing familiar words like give power back to the people, dignity, and so on. And you almost can make links from these statements to the authors of the document. So I think, of course, the document is not very representative. But that being said, we really would not want to spend our time analyzing this document just for the sake of trying to show that it's a weak document, it's it lacks legitimacy and it's not representative sufficiently. But I think the focus is really more on what the demonstration has achieved and the other ulterior motives, for example, of you know, of not being very inclusive, and also the sentiments that were expressed, which were against, Equatorians as being looked upon as separatists, and this is the issue. That's really our focus. That like Alma said, and others have expressed it, that when it comes to Equatoria, there's a lot of scaremongering going on. Because there's fear. ما بيقول انه um, يعني the elephant, or rather the lion, when the lion is asleep, you don't want to wake up the lion in fear of, potentially the lion finds that, okay, you're here, we're going to take you on. You don't want to wake up the lion. So they fear that Equatoria is waking up, and that is going to be presenting them with a challenge. And not only that, because of course what Equatorians are calling for is something that sends a great amount of scare and fear going down the consciousness of those people who are, uh, you know, banking on unionism and all of that. They don't want to see Equatoria come with something different. But I think more importantly for us, it's good to know that we have enemies out there. And I've mentioned earlier on that, for example, there's the opposition and enmity or hostility to the idea of Kokora, and some people still live with that. I mean, almost certainly when you talk to them, when that is what they go back to, Kokora. And I've noticed this even among some of these so-called new political um, organizations. There was a time we had a conversation with a member of the National People's Movement. It's a new outfit which was formed by a group of people, South Sudanese in Australia, and there's one Equatorian with them in that National People's Movement. And then we were talking, at that time, we were just discussing and exploring how can we work together. And the idea of the opposition as a whole could potentially put a stake, put a claim to being the alternative to what's happening in Juba by removal of Salva Kiir, so that we create a level playing field whereby we put the rights of the people first. Meaning that, from my perspective, as I was arguing this point, I was saying, essentially, what we're saying is that instead of us taking a long time fighting among ourselves, if there was a formula whereby we could come together to remove the regime and then give the people, when we talk about people here, and that's why we want to put the people first, that we put the rights of the people first as to how they want or perceive or conceive of how they want to live in South Sudan, how they want to coexist with others. And more importantly, we're not hiding or shying away from the subject of Equatorial self-determination, because it's a matter of right. This is a right which is recognized by the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights, and it's also one of the first, declarations and supported by the United Conventions or the United Nations Convention, um, which gives the right to any people to exercise the right to self-determination. And because unity can never be imposed, it can never be a subject that can be imposed. It has to be voluntarily, made. And we have proven over time and again that our social fabric has been shredded, has been broken, and there is no easy way of rebuilding the social fabric. So it's best that we go our separate ways, And then if in the future our future generations decide that, development has sufficiently occurred on this continent among the peoples of these countries, that they now want to have to come together for mutual interests, in which there's no harm of mutual benefits being being neighbors, or being common market, that sort of thing. We can interact, but that means, and it assumes to that, each people preserve their own sovereignty. But for us in Equatorial, I think we need to come to a point where we are exercising our sovereignty as a people. It's a, it's a chance, it's a matter of right, and it's something that Equatorians aspire to exercise. And I personally feel very strongly about this, that we've lost a lot of time in bloodshed, in trying to create a state of coexistence that doesn't seem to add up. And we cannot continue to invest in that. So, what is important for us from the standpoint of the people of Equatoria, there's a noise in the background. I don't know what. Somebody has to be muted.
I think it's
Hello?
Babylon. Maybe by mistake she.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Maybe
sorry. I'm
mute.
driving. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay. It's okay. Yeah. So yeah, from the standpoint of Equatoria, we need to recognize that salvation is coming from nowhere other than from within Equatoria itself. And it is not a sin, not at all, for any group of people who are sufficiently, cohesive in their, culture, character. I mean, no one should come and tell us that, you are tribes, you cannot coexist, you cannot, conceptually even, think of creating a nation out of the peoples of Equatoria. No, this is we have a dynamic within Equatoria that has gone on for the last God knows how many, decades of struggle, which has created this affinity, cohesion within Equatoria with a sense of identity, to put it together as well. So, and I think we need to give a lesson to the rest of South Sudan that this is how a nation should be organized. This is how a nation should be formed, and maybe that would help, promote the agenda of peace in the rest of South Sudan. But if we don't do that, then we're caught up in this situation where we are limited in terms of how we want to exercise political power, because that political power does not reside, in our hands. It's outside of our control. It's hijacked, and look at it. I mean, revitalized peace agreement. Um, this idea of elections, this idea of SPLM government trying to revitalize itself and continue to dominate our people. We are kind of like kept as prisoners of SPLM, just because we have decided or want to give the benefit of the doubt to this idea that South Sudan is still redeemable, and we are not even sure about our commitment to redeeming South Sudan, because we're most likely running the risk of being engaged in political conflict, becoming more violent. Look at what happened just in the last 24 hours. The Jeng, cattle security forces came to Eastern Equatoria. They forced themselves to Eastern Equatoria, and any sign of opposition was being met by force. People are killed, and then we end up having to fight back and use violence. So we're being, against our, best intentions. We find ourselves that some people invade our territories, our homelands, and forcing us into having to fight them back, fight back and use violence for that, and loss of life in the process. We did not invite anybody to do that, but this is coming in the name of South Sudan, right? So it's not the right signal. I mean, the right message that we are getting about South Sudan. Leave alone the fact that thousands of our people, if not millions of our people, have now left their homes and live in refuge. And so the whole project is, if you try to quantify it, if you try to evaluate and assess the benefits that can accrue to us as Equatorians in this project of the South Sudan state, and we are not party in the process. You see, it takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time to try to reform it, right? And there's no chance of that being very successful, not without cost, huge cost, in lives, in resources, and so on and so forth. And people having to pay the price, but it's best that they pay the price for their freedom, and that's why we need to really reach out to Equatorians, get this message across to all Equatorians that we're giving expression to what the people of Equatoria want. And we can give expression to what the people of Equatoria want by being organized, by building our capacity to influence and to project, what Equatoria wants, and to project ourselves as a people who are entitled to exercising sovereign political power over their affairs, over their future. And if we do that, maybe other people will start to also think like us. But we have to show leadership because we have it. We have the cause, we have the motivation to do it. And so in the bigger scheme of things, it's also an expression of hope to see our young people coming up, well-informed, motivated, passionate, knowledgeable, seeking truth, and seeking to express themselves about the future. And it's good that this is coming from the younger generation, because the older generation might have lost touch with reality, and so because also of lack of institutions, lack of a form of organization that would have been in existence that would have made this process easier. The lack of this means that none of these so-called political leaders in terms of Equatoria have they have the motivation to build institutions, to create a legacy. Sorry about this. Let me just stop this. Sorry about it. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was too slow to stop the call. I should have muted myself first. So yeah, if you ask any of these people who are in power today, in a system that doesn't actually confer power to them, they are not thinking about creating institutions. They're not thinking in terms of about creating change. They're just thinking in terms of living within the scope of and the constraints that they operate under. That's all. So they're like prisoners, so they have no further mileage. They have no further capacity to be creative, to think creatively, to think in terms of legacy, to think in terms of the next generation. Because you tend to worry when you have children, you have young people growing, and you're looking after them. You constantly want to see the best, for them, right? And if you translate that in terms of a country, in terms of a nation, there's nothing driving these people to think in terms of Equatoria as a whole, and really to commit their time to doing something about it. And that's part of the problem. So if there's opportunity, to leverage the skill sets, energy of our younger people, to give them confidence, to give them support and drive to push this agenda further, then there's hope that there would be a legacy, right? It's better than there being no expression of that voice, no expression of that thinking, of moving Equatoria forward in this direction. And I think our efforts, and I think the message is also getting through, that we need to now continue to build our capacity, and then that can take several dimensions, and in many dimensions it can be interpreted in many dimensions. So all of these dimensions that we can think about would help build and transfer this knowledge to widely within Equatoria. We have to utilize يعني زي ما بيقولوا اللي هو الآليات، كل الآليات المتاحة مثلا احنا نقدر نستخدمها عشان نقدر نبني يعني مقدرة مستديمة لقضية بتاعت الاستوائية. فأنه the people of Equatoria who hope to and look to exercising sovereignty over their affairs do so. لأنه أساسا إحنا عندنا arguments that أنه the state in South Sudan has failed, and so the fundamental rationale for having a state that can preserve the rights of the people of Equatoria is now almost non-existent, and therefore we are bound, or we are right to consider to look at creating a state for ourselves, because the purpose of the state is to preserve the rights of the people of Equatoria, to allow the people of Equatoria to exercise their full rights, the range of rights that belong to them, and also these rights belong to others. It's just that these rights have to be exercised within the context of a nation, a people, and a state. And in Equatoria, to a larger degree, we are endowed with all of these characteristics of being a nation. We just need to articulate it, organize ourselves better, and assert it, which we are not doing enough, which we are not doing sufficiently. And what we need to do is to continue to assert this so that we give confidence to our people, we give confidence to the nation to emerge. And the moment the people emerge with this, nobody will stop this, right? People will start even to take you seriously. So what we are looking at here is a strategic solution. It's no longer investment in short-term, medium-term kind of like gains. We have to give direct our efforts towards the long-term, the strategic outcomes that we want to see for our people, that our people need to win, to emerge winners in this. So this is a much more broader and noble, agenda for Equatorians than having to limit themselves on, let's be unionist, let's be in one South Sudan and so on. And South Sudan has failed. I mean, look, what are the other alternatives that you can put your hands together with in order to reform South Sudan? Who can you trust? Who can you work with as partners to try to reform South Sudan? When we have a dominant SPLM culture, the culture of warrior, the culture of authoritarianism, the culture of bandits, and so on. How are you going to be, managing this complexity, right? And so the rate of change and the rate of transformation can never be accelerated to a point where you can guarantee that there will be, respect for the rights of all citizens of South Sudan, that there will be a constitution that will be respected, and that there would be total, transfer of power to ensure that sovereignty flows from the people to the government, right? And even look now, the thinking, the the prevalent thinking, the dominant thinking about constitution making process in South Sudan is all about people talking about, the elites talking about having a constitutional conference. And you can see that this is how the likes of Soma talk about it. They say, we'll have a constitutional conference. We will have representatives from civil society organizations and so on. It's all an elitist process. They're not thinking outside of the box, right? But one of the issues that we've been trying to articulate is that Equatorians should know what their tools are to make this argument. That even if we're to want to, even on a temporary basis, on a transitional basis, want to take the option of transformation gradually through agreement, without having to go to war, that we have to give our people the ultimate authority, because they're the ones who are vested with the sovereignty, with the ultimate political power, for them to participate in deciding and determining how we want to coexist with each other. And that should be seen as something which is legitimate, right? And that's why we have been saying, for example, if we want to engage in a process of constitution making, then we should have a People's Convention, Equatorial People's Convention. And this People's Convention will be representative of the people of Equatoria to ensure that sovereignty flows from the people to their representatives, who will then go and participate in a constitutional making process, in a constitutional making process, which is through a people's representative assembly, for example. If we were to follow that process, for example, we could say, right, we want to have a constitution that gives self-determination as a matter of right to each of the regions or the constituencies that are viable in terms of, this dimension of being a people, cohesive, social group that looks and views itself as a people, to exercise the right to self-determination for the reasons that they consider are important, even if it means that they are, in the end, use that self-determination to declare their own state, because that's the only easiest way we can coexist with each other. If we coexist as separate states, and then, if we want to cooperate, we'll be cooperating on the basis of international recognized, laws and standards, right? So, and I think Equatorians should, start to recognize this, that we have everything in our hands, to make the arguments, to speak, to represent the views and the objectives of creation of a state in Equatoria, so that we can preserve our rights. The preservation of rights is the fundamental driver for why we should have a state in Equatoria, because then look at our own rights, decide and determine the pace of change and the rate of change in terms of how we want to govern ourselves and how we want to develop Equatoria in peace, right? We are recognized as a constituency, as a country that wants to take its own future in its own hands. Leave alone the fact that Equatoria has a very large territory, bigger than some existing countries. So why can't Equatoria make a claim to governing itself as an independent sovereign country? Even if it flies in the face of common, perhaps, how people think about it, like in terms of, I've listened to some conversations recently. People talk about, if we create a state in Equatoria, and this state is going to harm the interests of regional countries who are vested in South Sudan commercially, for whatever reasons, that this is going to be an obstacle. How are we going to address this? We don't want to put what's they call the cart before the horse, right? These are details of the strategy, but the core and fundamental thing is about things that are standards that are known internationally, like the right to self-determination that belongs to a people. Do we recognize that? Do you give up your right just simply because you are not able to consider how you're going to, at this point in time, you cannot provide assurance for all of these other considerations, other dimensions about the region, the state, the countries that support you, and so on. No, what you do is, first of all, you believe. You must have a fundamental belief that you do view and envision yourself to be a nation, and you have all the dimensions, the requirements of what makes and constitutes the nation. And of course, you have also the other reasons, other drivers that come out to the fore, in the sense that, why do you have to call for creating your own state? Because having a state would help to preserve your rights, because the international community will recognize that this is a state, and this is the people, and they have they have to be recognized so that they can live in peace. And so you cannot be imposed upon by having this geography that has been defined and given status of a state, but is failing to function as a state. And then we just box yourself in there without raising questions, fundamental questions as Equatorians. Why should we not be raising these fundamental questions? What is the limitation? Why should limitation be put upon Equatoria in terms of thinking, in terms of options, in terms of even envisioning and looking at the future? So those are the kind of issues that we need to address, and to share this, thinking with our constituency. And we go for the big picture. We go for the bigger issues in life. It's about the legacy that we want to, pass on to the next generation of Equatorians. If there is anything more that we can do, it is about this, because if it hasn't happened before, that people did not really organize and think in terms of Equatoria, and I think it's only the right challenge for us to do so. I mean, there have been several attempts. Equatorians have always coalesced. I remember in 2011, there was the first conference of all Equatoria in Juba, which I happened to be part of. And I happened to be one of the drafters of the conference resolutions. And Equatorians were united in their call for a federal system of governance. And that was a far more popular and democratic consultation process. But look at the dictatorial decrees that were issued about the creation of 32 states. They were imposed, and there was no popular consultative process about it whatsoever. And yet, it's within our rights to have called for a federal system of governance. And we've seen the failure, we have seen the games and the tactics, which are all driven by fears of Kokora, right? People don't seem to perceive the call of Equatoria for federalism those days with a positive welcome. And that is against all the history that we have that has accumulated over time. So I think it is now right, it is an obligation of the part on us as Equatorians to, particularly for this generation of Equatorians, to begin to poke these issues, unpack these issues, think about it broadly, and put the institutions in place to move us forward. And one of the things that really appeals to me is that, for example, we have been working together, Equatorial Civil Association Council and members of the Equatorial People's Alliance, and we said, and when we bring ourselves and our heads together, we send a message. We sell a message to our people that Equatorians are working together, right, on issues that pertain to Equatoria, and there should be no reason why other Equatorians who feel likewise should be working separately outside, in their different, whatever outfits. On the contrary, what we need to do is to bring these different vehicles into one place and project that we, the people of Equatoria, are coming together. We have an agenda. We have a vision for Equatoria. We may have a slight differences here and there, but that does not stand in the way of the vision that we collectively have for Equatoria. And that is where, we derive our mission statement, so to speak, feel about it differently, think about it in terms of a bigger agenda of life for us as Equatorians, so that we can live and bestow a legacy to our people, to our younger generations, to emerge, in a country, in a future that really defines their sovereignty, that defines their, future in terms that does not require them to continue to fight wars in order to assert themselves, in order to assert their rights. So those are the kind of agendas that we Equatorians really need to focus on, the bigger things. And just also for information for those who are here and for my colleagues in Equatorial Civil Association Council and EPA and other Equatorians, we are planning to have our own EPA meeting tomorrow. It's an emergency meeting that we are looking to consider certain issues that are current, that are ongoing, and we want to consult on those issues. We may also be having EBC broadcast for 2 hours tomorrow between 6 and 8 p.m. UK time. And then after that, we will have EPA meeting, internal EPA meeting we wanted to bring this forward on Saturday because of urgent developments that are taking place. So I just wanted to use this opportunity as well for those who are here who want to join us either on EBC or subsequently in the EPA meeting. And then after that, we're going to be calling for an all Equatoria meeting. We've done that in the past. We also wanted to, bring this meeting to bring Equatorians together on the agenda of some of the topical issues, the current issues that we're facing. We shouldn't be also be silent about some of those issues that are driving conflict in Equatoria at the present time, at the present moment. We need to give airing, we need to give sufficient airtime to some of those issues among ourselves as Equatorians, because these are the very issues that should drive why we want to organize ourselves as Equatorians. And there's a bigger population of Equatorians in diaspora. I always maintain and maintain this, that we have a huge constituency in Canada, in Australia, in the US, in Europe, and we need our people to feel confident that they should not fear. We cannot stand on the fence all the time. We need to, even those who fear to appear in frontline, activism or frontline representative politics, they can still contribute because they, in some way or another, they sympathize with the cause of the people of Equatoria. They are impacted. They may feel a bit shy, not coming out to participate and so on, but there are other ways where they can participate, where they can feel, that they're making a contribution. And that is really where we should go. We ask those who come, all of these people who come and participate in our sessions here on Clubhouse or on other platforms, especially those who are Equatorian nationalists and people who stand with the vision for Equatoria. They should coalesce and come together, and always from time to time see how and review and assess how they are well organized among themselves, and contribute to mobilizing the rest of Equatoria, especially in the diaspora. So it has got a two-edged position, a two-edged approach. This is the approach of us in the diaspora, having access to freedom of expression, having access to tool sets like for technology, where we can use and exploit technology to serve our interests. And also there's the other side, of course, where we communicate many of these messages and target our audiences back in Juba, back in Khartoum, in Sudan, and in other, on all parts of Equatoria. I think we should feel more assertive that this is our land, this is our Equatoria, and we should feel proud about it and call upon all of Equatorians to stand together, even those who disagree with us, right? When we have the vast majority of the Equatorial people's the grassroots standing for this, they will come along, or they will just realize that they will not win this, and still they will cooperate, because they would have to somehow recognize that the people of Equatoria have chosen this path. They want to walk this path, and they would want to ultimately, as sons and daughters of Equatoria, they would want to walk this path like everybody else, and they will be most welcome. So that is really maybe what I can say, and I may stop here. If I haven't covered some of the other areas, I think my colleague Dr. Alma and many other commentators would have given sufficient focus on those issues, and I really am glad that we have a platform like this, which I know some of us have been too busy with other things, not finding the sufficient time to come and attend. But today, for example, here is Friday, and I happened to find some space. Sorry, not before Friday. Sorry, I happened to find some space, and I was able to come. But usually, you might be at work, different time zones, which really limits and constrains our presence and our participation in this energetic, motivating debate. This is where you bring your thinking to life. We come to learn from others how they think, what is it that is really driving them, what is it that motivates them, and we share on all of this, and then the icing on the cake would be translate all of that into actions, translate that into strategies that we can utilize to move us forward. So I'm really very pleased, very appreciative of the audience here, and of our young brothers and sisters, as well as every Equatorian that want to see Equatoria united. So thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Hakim. Yeah, you did say everything in detail, and I hope that people who are listening in are going to take notes. Our Equatorians are going to take notes, and they are going to also reflect on some of the points which you have mentioned. About how we should change the narrative now. For too long, our fate has been determined by other people. For too long, since the signing of the CPA, literally Equatoria didn't have much say in all the things. We have been like bystanders, although we have been, quite crucial as Equatorians in the fight in order to secure a free South Sudan, an independent South Sudan. But in the end, what happened? We were pushed at the side by people who are manipulative, who are really, and we, the Equatorians, we didn't even learn from that lesson as Equatorian leaders. But then I have explained earlier that what we have been subjected to is, the cutting of our heads. We have been headless. Our leaders who could have, helped Equatoria to have a say were all assassinated. And now we are left with like none who can speak out for us. So in the end, our young people had to see that this is a threat on our very existence. As a people, you could easily be completely wiped out. And that's the reason our young people have decided we are going to speak out, we are going to rally the people. And I give a lot of thanks to Odysseus, Didi, who's not here. I think that it's early morning, maybe midnight, where she is. So and other people like um, I think who else? Yeah, Escobar and others who have always been here rallying people. And when I saw them, I just came, it was by chance because I'm quite new to, fairly new, I would say, to Clubhouse. When I saw their group, being battered by others, I decided I will come and I will just support them. And this is why I have been a regular attender with this group, so that I will give them the necessary as a duty, as an elder of Equatoria. I think that more people should come in and should start supporting this group, because they are holding the fort for us, and we can't leave them alone to fight. I have seen so many vultures from all sides trying their best, to erode their confidence, trying their best to tarnish their image, and so on and so forth, while they're doing this lovingly for Equatoria. And that's a real shame. I really feel sorry that they are subjected to this. Even other people who are not from Equatoria are feeling sorry for these young people who are being battered by their own. That's really a shame. It's really a shame. And I hope that our people who are listening will know that these young people are really, like my role model, because I have seen them, I have watched them, I have heard them talk, and they have never disappointed me. And I hope that more young people would come forwards. They shouldn't be faced. So because we are really facing existential threat, we have been repeating this all the time, but this existential threat is being done in closed rooms. It has been done, in the fields. It has been done in our history. It has been done everywhere in our land grabbing all over the place. You could be here in your house, and then the next minute you're killed, and somebody else grabs your land and pushes your children out of your land. What kind of society is that? And then the next minute, some of our Equatorians will come and say to us, it's okay, we will unite with these people. This is a behavior, this is actually a behavior which is irreversible. It's a behavior, it's actually a culture, not only a behavior, it's a culture of a people that are alien to us. I'm sorry to say, I am sorry to say, because we have been living with them. We have wrestled with the Arabs. We have come into our brand new nation. But then their real colors have just emerged. How can you live with somebody who has made you to eat the dead body of your loved ones? They kill your loved ones, and then they cut their dead body and they tell you to eat it. They will take somebody who has just been killed, drain their blood, and make their relatives drink it. What sort of people is that? How can you say that we should unite with them? Even as a people, as the nation of Equatoria, we have got the right to say that we want to separate, even if there is no fighting, even if there is nothing. It's just our right. If we feel that we want to separate, nobody should stand in our way. This is our constitutional right. So nobody should ask us to explain. No, nobody should come and say to us, don't separate because of A, B, and C, or they will tell us that, we are too weak to separate. What sort of nonsense is that? These things really makes me so annoyed, because Equatorians do not know how strong they are. Equatorians are not confident because their confidence is eroded. And I always say, choose your friends carefully. You can't choose your relatives, but you can choose your friends. If you want to be friends with somebody who treats you with respect. Be friends with somebody who treats you as an equal. Because if you go with somebody who looks down on you, then your confidence will be eroded. You will always be unhappy. You will always be disappointed. And this is what some of these leaders of Equatoria, they want to do. And Hakim has said something which stood out in my mind. That is that Equatorians of nowadays, they want something which is ready-made on a plate. They jump on the bandwagon of SPLM. They jump on the bandwagon of SPLM or IO. Why? Why should you do that? Then when they divided into Kit Kwang or whatever they call it, they jumped on that bandwagon. What's wrong with Equatorians, really? And then jumping on that bandwagon of Soma, which has given nothing. It has actually, what's happening in NAS now, it's because of what's happened with this Soma. If NAS didn't get into this alliance, NAS would have been a very strong organization by now. Really, NAS would have been the best organization. But they brought people who look down on NAS because it's led by Equatorians. And now these people, and I call them creeps, the creepers, that plant that creeps, and that plant will thrive only when it finds a tree or a solid object like a wall. These sort of plants that climb on other plants in order to make itself survive. These are these people. Because as somebody said, if you take Equatoria out of the equation, what will happen with the Shuluk? They will be between the Dinka and the Nuer, and they will be like between the rock and a hard place, and they don't want that. So they want to creep on us, the Equatorians. And when they do that, they don't do it in a nice way. They are doing it with violence, with intimidation, with insults. They will insult you in order to bend down so that they can climb on your shoulders. And there is a saying, nobody will climb on your back unless you bend down. انت لو ما انحنيت ما في زول بيركب في ظهرك. انت بتتحني ليه؟ Equatorians ديل اللي بيحبوا يجروا ورا ناس ديل, and then they are being abused all the time, and they are told that they are cowards, they are weaklings, they are this, they are that. يا زول ما عنده بلد, ما عنده محل, يجي يقعد في بلدك ويجي يشتمك على ده كله, وانت بس انت تسكت ساي, and then you follow them as well. يا اخي القرايه ده منون ما قرا, ناس كله قارين, لو نسوان ولا رجال. في زول فيهم قرا اكتر من اي زول هنا, ما في. But our people like to belittle themselves, and then the worst thing is that they come and fight with these young people. تلقى زول كبير عمره كم 60 سنة يجي يشاكى له مع عيال أمورهم في الثلاثينات, يعني قدر عياله. These Equatorians have got no shame who are doing these things, and they are the ones who are helping these other tribes to wipe us out. to wipe our identity. يا أخي جنوب السودان ده كبير قدر شنو؟ ليه ناس ديل ما يبنوا في محلات ده كله إلا يجي يبنوا في جوبا وفي إيكواتوريا، بس أي محل في إيكواتوريا دايرين يجي يقعدوا فوق. ليه؟ لأنه they want to obliterate us completely. They want to just wipe us out. And they're doing it using the Equatorians. So Equatorians, you will have to be very careful of who your friends are. ونحن بعد ده, we are not going to mince our words. We are going to say it clearly that there are some tribes from Upper Nile who are aggregating and they are going everywhere. يعني انت لو انت شفت في السياسة هم فوق في التجارة هم فوق في أي محل بيعصروكم وبيدافسوكم ما بيدوكم نفس تتنفس فوقه. لو الليلة زول دخل في بيتك وقاعد يعصرك وإيالك ما قادرين ينوموا وإنت ما قادر تاكل وما قادر ترتاح، هتقول له شنو؟ هتقول له بالله يا أخوي من فضلك أطلع. And this is what we are doing. And then the other Equatorians will say, oh, we want unity with these people. You out. They came and sorted you out properly. And when you are in this position, do you think you're going to sort out anybody? No. If now the Shuluk who are, they have got no place of their own, they are coming now, يستعمروكم. How will you sort? هتدينا حقي كيف؟ لو انت ما تكلمت حسا when we have got our unity. حسا ده we are not in a united South Sudan. انت قادر تفتح خشمك حتى في opposition they are sitting on your backs. خليك من حكومة. في opposition انت ما قادر تفتح خشمك في كلاب هاوس انت ما قادر. حسا انا قاعدة اهو في مطبخ حقتي مش هو قاعد اتكلم. Why don't you open your own room and talk? Why do you have to go to other people's rooms and be abused there? And then you are used to abuse other Equatorians. So this is the question. And we have got to concentrate on the fact that there are so many risks. ونحن عددناه كله risks. Risk of completely losing our culture. Risk of losing our land. Risk of losing our identity. Risk of losing ourselves, our dignity. Who الإنسان دي شنو has got to have their dignity. Even a dead body, when you are completely, lifeless, you have got to be treated with dignity. أنا إحنا حيين كده ما قاعدين يدونا dignity لغاية زول لما يموت. شوف الجنايز ديل، شوف dead bodies in South Sudan, how they deal with them. They take them, they cut them up, and then they spread them all over the place. أنا حاقف هنا وأنا بدي فرصة لناس تانيين عشان يتكلموا. شكرا. Odysseus, are you there? أنا ما أعرف بالنسبة له.
دكتور حكيم يا سوري أنا عندي نتورك إيشوز ما قادر أتصل كنت بشكرك دكتور ألما for what you said. طبعا I have to apologize to you first. في حاجات أنا ما قدرت أسمعه لأن عندي مشكلة في النتورك. And again, I just want to also give my thanks to you for your outstanding words and message, And what I want to say here, في ناحية بتاع الريسك اللي إحنا مارينه, and anybody can welcome. I welcome anyone who want to join up, say something or want to add your thoughts. I see Anyanya earlier. If you want to join up also, it's just part of the continuation also. But in the same time, I wanted to say this, the risk in South Sudan, being as an Equatorian, is based on many things, particularly since Equatoria have يعني من دخول استوائية في الحركة الشعبية بصراحة، هو لعب دور كبير في إسقاط المجتمع الاستوائي، على أساس بقوا ما قادرين يلاحظوا الخطورات اللي قاعد يواجههم يعني بطريقة غير مباشرة، لأن الحركة الشعبية أزال منهم فكرة بتاع استوائية في وقت ما. يعني كانت تخيلت هسه مجموعات اللي دخل في الحركة الشعبية خاصة القادة معظمهم أفكارهم يعني شبه رجعي، لأنه ما بيفكروا في المنطقة اللي هو إنه الحركات الثورية مفترض هو يكون حركة لتغيير أنظمة ديكتاتورية وبناء حكومة بيساعد المواطن البسيط. لكن للأسف لقينا إنه الحركة الشعبية كان عنده رؤية different، وكثير من الناس اتغشوا. وبعدين الحركة الشعبية حتى انتهك حقوق الإنسان في جنوب السودان، بالأخص الأطفال والنساء، في ناحية بتاع اغتصابات واختطاف أطفال لتجنيدهم. حتى في أواخر بعد ما بقينا الدولة، يعني يقول 2018 2019 حتى 2020، يعني كان في أحداث بتاع أطفال بيختطفوهم وبيريكروت them as child soldier. وإن كثير ما سمعنا child soldier ده يعني أطفال الجنود، ده ما جديد. حتى في دول إفريقية في الشرق أو غرب إفريقيا كثير ما لقينا الدول الفوق ديكتاتوريين، زي مثلا تشارلز تايلر بتاع ليبيريا if I'm not mistaken. كان واحد من الناس اللي أخذ أطفال كجنود، وحاجات دي استخدموها قال ده ثوريين. لكن الثورة اللي إحنا بنشوفها اليوم، الثورات اللي بتبني بطريقة، ده الثورات أصلا ما بتعرف ثورة، ده بتعرف على فوضى which is anarchy على جنود بتاع فوضى بيعملوا حاجات. ولكن للأسف جنوب السودان ما anarchy بس على مبادئ بتاع الفوضى، لأنه في anarchy اللي هم بيكون شوية عندهم الوعي على إنه هم الفرديين، لكن ده anarchy بتاع ماشي على الناحية بتاع شنو القبلية، والقبلية المربوطة بهم بالتاريخ. عشان كده الحركة الشعبية ما قدر ينتصر يعني في تحقيق أو إزاحة النظام الشمالي من الجنوب، بل هم قعدوا لمدة كم 20 سنة حتى ما جينا وصلنا لشنو اتفاقية تاع السلام الشامل، يا هو جابوا لنا حقوق تاع الجنوبيين اللي احنا تتواصل لتحرير أو استقلال. فاليوم احنا لقينا الحركة الشعبية استولى على السلطة، واحنا لقينا نفسنا كمان تاني تحت النظام بتاع الحركة الشعبية الفوضوي. and then now we find ourselves controlled and isolated within our home. لأن اليوم بقى عندنا كم مليون نسمة من سكان بتاع استوائية أو Equatoria is outside the land. and then عندنا الباقين هم بقوا شنو؟ بقوا يعني they are forcing them to assimilate them within the communities, particularly Upper Nile اللي هم اليوم يعني كمية بتاعهم اليوم استوطنوا في جوبا وماشيين قاعدين يزحفوا لداخل أراضي استوائية. يعني كان عندنا كم سنة قدام الريسك بتاع إيكواتوريا in this it will be a really catastrophe، بمعنى تاني استوائية خسرت مقامه. وفي ملفات زي ما أنا قلتها، يعني لقيت آخر ملفات يعني very 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 disturbing. ملفات ده بيقول إنه this thing is really dangerous to the extent that Equatoria only has a short time if Equatorian people are not standing up out like and articulate the issue clearly in the international community, then we have nothing left for us only to lose our land, our identity. and حتى لو احنا عندنا الترايب الموجودة، الترايب تاني بيكون زي القبائل الموجودة في ما وست بحر غزال، لكن تحت منهم اللي بيكونوا هم assimilated with قبائل أخرى اللي هو المتركزة هناك.
احنا بانتو، احنا بانتو
أيوة
كلنا
قبائل البانتو، يس قبائل البانتو اللي هم اليوم assimilated by Dinka community majority of them حتى أجبرهم يتكلموا لغات أخرى. this is one of the dangerous thing I see. فأنا بقيف هنا لكن yes the danger is really strong. والحركة الشعبية هو أساس الخطورة ده. عشان كده إحنا الناس اللي قاعدين نطالب الانفصال هو الأفضل طريقة أفضل وسيلة لحل المشكلة. وطبعا في انفصالنا ما معناته انفصالنا على أساس إحنا بنتخلى بطريقة بس أو عايزين نقرر مسيرة زي الحركة الشعبية كان أدى أوهام إنه هنا نكون دولة خلاص كل شيء بيتحل. انفصالنا فوقه هو مشروع ما بيتكون من عدة حاجات إحنا لازم نعمله. واحد منه زي ما أنا قلنا we will come up with also the economic plan for the future what Equatoria will be once we become a nation. and then also طلبياتنا إحنا ياتوا نوع من حكم عاوزين لأنه ده مهم جدا عشان إحنا نكون دولة ياتوا نوع من حكم. هل إحنا عاوزين حكم ديمقراطي شيوعي ليبرالي what kind of system we want or capitalist. Of course Equatoria is still a developing nation, so for us the best way I could see it will be what do you call democratic of course, but it will be more like in a liberal standard that we give the people the right because we also want to give education as a priority number one. So these are the first things in our plan. This is the future, but at the moment we just keep this as one of the objectives, and plus the economic plan that we have. So في عدة مشاريع هنتكلم عنهم ما أنا ما أقدر أتكلم لكن I want to give a chance Didi and then brother Anyanya. Thank you for the hello Tumai.
نمشي ولا ديدي يجي بعديه مودريتور؟
لا Anyanya you speak. Anyanya أنا بسبيك. I have something to show. I'll speak.
يعني ما انت لازم تجهز. طبعا اخواتنا بيكون عندهم مشاغل كتير. معلش الليله انا عملت لكم ازعاج كتير في الروم بتاعكم. I'm sorry about that to be honest.
You're good.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyanya, you go. I've got something important. So you speak. I will come after you.
All right. The countless risk of being an Equatorian in South Sudan. Let me tell you something. There is no any risk. Please, and please 3 times. Yeah, Odosia and all Equatorians, even the people with the separatists or the people with the rebels or people in the government, whoever call Equatoria, there is no risk. If somebody touch you, we will touch them back. Who's them? We will. As South Sudanese from Western Bahar Ghazal, we will defend anybody who is voiceless and weak and he cannot fight for himself. Let me tell you something. Equatoria cannot be scared. لأنه this topic زي كأنه زول قاعد يقول هو خايف في ريسك. أنت ما تخاف. أنت من القبائل الأفريقية القسومة اللي اسمهم بانتو. البانتو ديل منو؟ ديل ناس أقوى ناس في المنطقة الاريا اللي اسمه الغارة الإفريقية. ده ما في دولة واحد. ديل في السودان، في سنترال أفريقيا، في كونغو، في يوغندا، في كينيا، في another country. كينيا شوية فيه نايلوتيك. الناس جنب البحر ده كله جنب النايل سموهم نايلوتيك. ديل فيه طوال.
أنيانيا لو ما قاطعك بس سؤالي لك هنا. انت قلت نيلوتيك and all this stuff. انا بس سؤالي لك انت قلت ما في ريسك the Equatorian being part of South Sudan. كده وريني في الناحية بتاعك ليه ما في ريسك. Do you think the risk اللي احنا قاعد نقوله ده this is out of our imagination ولا based on facts? Because for us it's based on fact because إن قلنا الحركة الشعبية تكوينه كان أسبابه واضح. أسبابه كان ضد الاستوائيين. أنت do you agree on that? If not then tell me what حركة الشعبية أداكم أنتوا كأبناء بحر الغزال هناك. What did you find yourself facing? Because إحنا سمينا بحر الغزال كان طبعا كمان في مجموعات حركة شعبية. أنتوا استفدتوا شيء من الحركة الشعبية وأنا بوريك إحنا استفدنا شيء من الحركة الشعبية. صراحة إيكواتوريا نبى استفاد أي شيء من الحركة الشعبية غير لقينا إنه بقى في بيقولوا إنه حصار على أراضينا أو دخول بدون شرعية بتاع استوائيين في أراضي استوائية. و compared to you what did you gain from حركة شعبية أو أنتوا خسرتوا من الحركة الشعبية؟ لأن أنا قاعد أشوف ده خطورة هنا، وأنت قلت لا ده ما في خطورة في جنوب السودان. فتفضل.
Yeah, thank you, brother Rhodesia. Thank you so much for asking this question. الريسك دائما بيعملوا له منو؟ بيعملوا له زول التعبان. Risk they do something called risk assessment. في مجال بتاعي بيعملوا حاجة اسمه risk assessment إنه زول ده أساسا تعبان is not capable to look after himself or herself in the reason whereby somebody else would come and rescue that person from the any danger that to happen to them. Equatoria زي زول واقف فوق زي الصورة بتاعي ده أنا شلته من جبل كجور ده أو جبل الوراي هناك ده. يعني if I walk now ممكن it take me 5 minutes I will go I will just turn that house turn left في مصنع بتاع تويوتا هناك اللي عملوه في محل ده اللي بيكون فيه هنا. إيكواتوريا ما عنده ريسك. انت زول لما تكون واقف بكراك you don't have risk لانه انت you will defend yourself. انت اي زول داري يكون you jeopardize your risk as to exist you have to fight back. وده الحاجة اللي أنا داري أقول لكم despite all these ideas of economic coming and I will talk about it later. الحاجات التانيين أنت كhuman being كإيكواتوريانز ما مفروض تخاف من الريسك لأنه أنت you can defend yourself as an Equatorian man and woman. أنتوا بتقدروا ما في زول يقعد يخطكم زي كأنه أنتوا يول بي زول داير ناس لما تكون في ريسك في زول تاني بيجي بيساعدك ما في زول بيساعدك you have to ساعد نفسك. الكلام اللي أنا جيت فيه أنتوا من بانتو. Majority of Equatorian tribes are from Bantu kind of tribes. Let me tell you البانتو ديل ناس بزرعوا بيحبوا ميوزك they very good looking. ربنا عملهم في أفريقيا يكونوا very good looking. they love women بيحبوا نساوين بيحبوا يزرعوا and they always in their own land. عمرهم ما violent people. وديل ناس قاعدين في محلهم ما بمشوا أي مكان ما بيشاكلوا مع ناس بيقعدوا بيزرعوا بيكون عندهم محل ثابت. Why I made this to bring this Bantu issue up because احنا ما بنليف زي النايلتيك اخواننا عندهم الكتلز لازم يفتشوا مويه يوم المجاعه ولا مويه ما في ناشف بمشوا في محل تاني and that's always create problems. ليه الزول البانتو بيكون قاعد لديك صيغه تاني انه الزول البانتو ده زول مثقف. why because always بيكون قاعد في محل لو في مدرسه هو بيرسل عياله هم قاعدين في محل واحد. Imagine you moving with the kettles. كل مرة تحول عيال من مدرسة لمدرسة. في ناس في يوروب اسمهم جيبسي ما عندهم كاوس لكن ده exactly الجيبسي ده زي ناس بتاع إيكواتوري بتاع النايلوتيك هم بيلفوا around بيقعدوا في أي مكان فاضي حكومة بديهم فرصة وهم ما ناس متعلمين هم ناس ما قاعدين يمشوا مدرسة لأنه كل ما يموف around يدوم مساحة يقعدوا فيه ما بيكون في مدرسة بيجوا ما بيدرسوا عيالهم. فما في حاجة wrong with Equatorian يكون عنده risk in South Sudan. This is ما تعمل يعني ما نجيبوا خوف لأخواننا. انتوا بانتو people بتقعد تزرع تاكل زول جا في مزرعة بتاعك اقتله. معلش يعني I never incite hatred or violence لكن زول جا في مكان بتاع زول قول له اطلع واحد اطلع اثنين نمرة ثلاثة it deal with the person. That's number 2. Number 3 إيكواتوريا ده لو ان احنا دايرين نعمل فكره بتاعت الاقتصاد نديه لهم عشان لما next time you open the room let me tell you something. الاقتصاد في إيكواتوريا is the backbone of the whole Africa. إيكواتوريا كله لما تعالوا في الماب is falling in the green belt. كله إيكواتوريا. هسه الخريطه اللي عندك ده الابيض كله اسود الابيض ده كله ده إيكواتوريا. تعرف ده شنو؟ ده جرين بيلت. وده جرين بيلت بتاع شنو؟ ده فيه مويه فيه اكل الكويس فيه حيوانات الكويس فيه شجر الكويس فيه حاجات الكويس الناس بيقدروا يعيشوا بيه. The next war around the world is about war of water and food and everything. Ask yourself why our brothers in Congo suffering, whereby the most country that have gold, diamond, water everywhere, the population is very small, and you can even see all the animals around the world. And even some of the animals from South Sudan run to Congo because of the fighting, or Kenya and Hajadel. And those countries, they didn't want to give us back our animals. Why? Ask yourself. The Congo, all the people around the world, they just looking at them, they want to have part of this piece of land. Equatoria fall in a very good land, because somebody else will ask himself or herself, why all the problem is about Equatoria? Why Equatoria, every different rooms. Even now, if I close this room, I will see another room talking about Equatoria, because it's a very resources place, somewhere that everybody, you can live without any money from outside if there is peace. You don't even need any money from nobody or international community or NGOs. You can live as a human being and teach yourself by yourself and everything. Let me tell you the hint of economics. If we tried hard to make electricity to be all over Equatoria, believe me, the whole Africa will exist because of Equatoria. Because people and internet, people would teach themselves by themselves online, people will respect by themselves by online. And Equatorians, let me tell you, they have taught South Sudanese people very much. They have. You see the names of the leaders of Equatorians? Yes, funny enough, they're not shining because they never talk about them. They never ever mention them. But they are the people that they make South Sudan to be what it is now, because they brain and the brain of the movement, the brain and the think tank and the thinkers of this country, because they are non-violent.
Sorry,
yes.
Go ahead. I want to ask you one question, if you don't mind, on what he's saying. أنا بدنا نفهم من رأيك أنت طبعا أنت من بحر غزال. أنا نعرف شنو يا هو اللي بيخلي 2 إقليم من بحر غزال وعلى النيل متمسكين باستوايا، في شنو يا بربطنا في الناحية أنتوا قاعد تشوفوها، لأنه أنا really صراحة we know Equatoria is a separate region from Upper Nile in particular. Maybe بحر غزال عندنا تاريخ yes western بحر غزال ما كله western بحر غزال but still شنو بيربطنا مع جنوب السودان خاصة من ناحية بتاع على النيل وبحر غزال ويلا استوائية, because استوائية already demanding separation. I just want to know what is your connection, why you guys are so like أنا بشوف من على النيل بالأخص so captivated to the idea that they want to be us to be part of South Sudan. هنا انفصلنا من شمال السودان امبارح. ليه بقى ده الرؤية بتاعكم ما قادرين تخلوا إيكواتوريا سفرين؟ بس نسأل السؤال ده.
For me personally, I will answer in terms of my personal belief. Like Equatorians, they have the same. We share the same cultural way of living. Let me put it that way of living. I mentioned earlier Bantu. Bantu is not just one name of one tribe. Is this kind of group of people that before they divided us. Like me, I'm from Balanda and Indogo. We have the same culture like Zande, like Kuku, like this. We are people who like growing food. People like to be, majority of them, if you realize from Western Bahar Ghazal and this, and the Faratit, who's Equatorians, they're teachers, doctors, nurses, farmers, and people like to do creative things like engineers of cars and stuff like that. And we all of us are farmers. بنقعد في محل واحد, and we also love religion. Even those religion, if the الناس قالوا خواجة أو جاب religion, كلنا بنكونوا متدينين. We always go to church. So this is the combination of almost more than 80% of the culture of other people living somewhere. They have exactly like people in Equatoria. Del Faratit اللي أنا جيت منه. This is my personal answer. This is not the general answer. I don't have reference about that, but I can see the way we have, and we love music, we love our women, we love to have families, and we live in a very small and good connected community. This is the reason, yeah, those here, we have united culture that I can see between people in our Western Bahar Ghazal, where I am from, with Nasal, Western Equatoria. I mean, for general Equatoria, that's where we are. I don't know if I answer your question.
Well, you did your best. Right now, I'm really be honest with you. I'm distracted a little bit, but let me just, if anybody have anything to say, add or question, just because of that, we will end up here, because I really want to say that we have talked about the countless risks last time, and we see the countless risks many. واحد منه من الأخطار هو زي ما قلنا إحنا في وضعنا كجنوبيين. أولا أراضينا هسه في احتلال، وده ما حاجة بيقدر يتمحى بإيزي. وبعدين كنت لاحظت السياسات الموجودة في جنوب السودان، السياسات ده يعني عواقب بتاعه حيكون dangerous in the future, because already الناس دي هسه بيبيعوا في أراضينا حتى للأجانب. خليك بقى من المواطنين على النيل. يعني هسه في ناس جايين من كينيا، من other countries، حتى الأجانب الأوروبيين والتشاينيز including. remember how هسه هم اتكلموا عن البنزين ده قريبات ده، قالوا إن البنزين ده هسه هيكون رهينة لمدة كم سنوات لحد 2027 if I'm not mistaken. And if this is what they're doing, imagine أراضي اللي فوقه موارد طبيعية. ده بنفسه حتى بيوري إحنا وصلنا لمرحلة بتاع يعني البلد ده حيرجع يتشال مننا زي ما إحنا شالوا، زي ما في ناس بيقولوا شمال السودان كان belong to them. على النيل معظم القبائل اللي في على النيل كان رجعنا لتاريخهم، هم بيقولوا إنه اسمه شنو ده الشمال السودان ده منطقتهم، ده أصلي مسقط رأسهم. إذا كان ده مسقط رأسهم، اليوم هم كلهم حجروا في على النيل واتجهوا لبحر غزال، واليوم من وراء الحركة الشعبية يوزعوا حالهم في جهة استوائية، وده بشكل خطر هنا الاستوائيين في الناحية الثانية، لأن الاستوائية ما كان متوقع على احتلالات بالطريقة ده. إحنا كنا متوقعين إحنا إخوة بنتعايش مع بعض، لكن احترام متبادل، لكن ما في احترام متبادل، بل في بقى شنو قلع أراضي. يعني بدأ من 2005 لما الحركة الشعبية في تقرير المسير، أو في شنو السلام الشامل قبل ما يوقعوا، يا قال الجماعة يعني وقت ده بقى نشوف بقى في نوع من الانتهاكات. حتى أنا عندي أراضي، يعني أراضي تعيتاتنا شالوها بقوة، حتى المقابر. يعني قبالك دكتور ألبو was mentioning those things are violation to us. يعني دايرين يمحوا تاريخنا أكثر من يشيلوا أراضينا. يا ريت لو بس بيشيلوا البيت، لكن ده يمحوا حتى أساس بتاعتنا. فهنا في خطورة شديد جدا my brother. ولما انتم بتقول مثلا انتم في على مثلا على النيل او بحر غزال، انا فاهم الوطنيه اللي انت قاعد تطالبه، لكن الوطنيه اللي تقولوا ده في الارضيه انا ما شايفه، لانه في عده حاجات حاصله قدامنا هنا، وهو العنف الكبير يتجه ضدنا. يعني انت كان لاحظت حتى ذاته استقبال ابناء استوائيه في جهه بتاع على النيل او بحر غزال، استقبال بيكون بطريقه بتاع ابتزاز واستهتار. يعني في ناس اللي مشوا كانوا قاعدين يشتغلوا، خليك من المنظمات بس، ابناء استوائيه يشتغلوا في المنظمات لقوا حالهم هم في شنو، في ايده في تهديد او قتل او طرد. يعني هم بيرجعوا back to their territories. so بمعنى ثاني استوائيين لا واجهوا ان هم ما مقبولين. وفي نفس الوقت يعني في الماضي كمان كان بيقول الاستوائيين انتوا جايين من هناك، انتوا من الجنوب لين على النيل، واكثريتهم كان ابناء الشلوك بيقولوا الاستوائيين انتوا من الجنوب، يعني كان لغتهم. فاليوم بقى عاوزين يجبرونا هنا احنا جنوبيين، لكن الجنوبيه ده حل على حساب انه احنا ننقرض كابناء استوائيه ويبيدونا ويقتلونا واحنا نسكت، لانه كان ده هو الاباده عشان نحن نسكت لمصلحه جنوب السودان. انا بقول لا، افضل لنا نحارب من اجل ارضنا، لان الارض هو اغلى من اي شيء في الدنيا ده. if people don't see the value of the land, then I really don't know what else. حتى في الدول العربيه دي هسه الصراع بتاع ما مويه ولا اكل، الارض، لان الارض هي اساسهم، يا اما كانوا بيقدروا يعيشوا فوقه بيقدروا يزدهروا فوق. I will stop here at this moment, but I will try to give if Didi is able to speak or Mr. Hakim, and then from there, and then if we don't have any much, we can just conclude and we say thank you for today. Until next time, we'll be able to come up and talk about a topic again.
Let me say something until the other people to come. You know, Odosia, the Bantu people, one of their own, the first, their criteria or characters is they strong fighters. انت ممكن بتعرف زي جبال كان معاكم ناس قدوة بشير وديل ده الزاند ده او زاند ده من زمان حطوه في كتب تعليم في افريقيا، ان احنا بس ما بن appreciate ناس بتاع قبائلنا ولا بنكتب كتب. These Zandes, they're very strong people. They're the same زي بلاندا زي بونغو زي فراتيت. These people, they don't go and look for fight, but they are the people that can defend themselves by themselves. واحد زول ممكن make a change, and that's why this is one of the things I would say. ما في زول هنا بيكون في risk، لأنه أنا متأكد أي زول من إكواتوريا can defend، لأنه زول ما بفتش مشاكل، بيكون قاعد بسمع بالراديو بتاعه، بعمل أكل بتاعه. وبعدين our body building is very strong. يعني احنا معضلين بيسموه تيكي تيكي، زول بتلقاه معضل. Yes, we are short, but we are not taller, but we are strong physically because we have a lot of muscles in our body. Let me just make it clear. So ده ما زول انت بخاف من زول تاني، ده زول بقدر بيدفن نفسه. And this is what the Bantus and Equatorians are all like that. Let us not scared to say that they've been يعني مثلا ريسك لإيكواتوريا في ساوث السودان. أنا متأكد بيدفن نفسه، كان بدنجة ولا كان بحربة ولا كان بفيزيكال فايت. لكن لو قتلوه زول عنده باور بالسلاح then that means a cowardness. ما في زول من إيكواتوريا بيجري، ما في زول فرتيت بيجري، ما في زول بيجري من المشاكل because they don't plan to go and invade somebody else's place. They always stay in their own place because they're looking to water, they grow the food, and they're sitting. All the farmers are stable people, and any stable person have education, have every stability, and then also they rely on God. Some people cannot be religious, but they have their own traditional religion. They stay in their own places. They never move around. And this is the people that بيقول لهم زول مستغير is somebody who مستغير قاعد في محل معين. And that's what Equatoria. So there is no risk. And even they come and do atrocities in your area, God is there to watch and say, these people, something happened to them. I will support them, even if you don't have the government, even if you don't have the weapon, even if you don't have the power of money, but you have the power of humanity. No risk for Equatoria. Equatoria is good. Equatoria need to defend themselves and need to equip with the information زيك انت يا Odosia and Didi and Dr. Hakim and شفت Dr. Alma كانت هنا. This is what is Equatoria is all about. Education and mobilize the people. And when you start to come and talk about the economic, please send me the message and tell me to speak. Because I study economics.
أستاذ واكو لو سمحت بس عاوز سوري للمقاطعة، لكن عاوز أنبهك لقضية بتاعت إنه الحكاية ده مش يعني based on قضية بتاعت إنه Equatorians عندهم مثلا أجسام قويين والناس قصار ولا كده. دي ما القضية. القضية في إحنا النظام والمؤسسات، لأن أنت بتتكلم هنا you're talking about organizing society, organizing groups of people. كويس، أنت عاوز لهم نظام بتاع حكم، أنت عاوز لهم نظام بتاع تعليم، تعزلهم نظام القضيه مش في الاجسام القويه والمنو بيجري 100 meters ولا المنو بيجري 300 meters ولا بيقدر يستحمل this is not the focus كويس. this is not the focus. احنا عايشين في عالم معاصر، انت بتعرف الكلام ده كويس. احنا عايشين في عالم معاصر، يعني العالم ده بيحكم حسي هنا بما يسمى بالدولة، يعني المؤسسة بتاعت الدولة كويس. ومن مقومات بتاعت الدولة في أنها تحافظ على شنو؟ حقوق. يعني حتى الكونسبت الفكرة بتاعت إقامة الدولة بتتبنى على أسس ومفاهيم بتاعت حقوق الإنسان، حقوق الشعوب وما إلى ذلك. وبرضه بتقوم على فكرة بتاعت اللي هو sovereignty of the people وتداول السلطة كويس وهكذا. والتعايش مع بعض الدول ومع المجتمعات وتبادل بتاعت شنو؟ المنافع وإدارة تبادل المنافع. حاجات دي الأسس، دي القضية بتاعت أنه هل الظروف مواتية فأنه إحنا نقدر نباشر قضية بتاعت أنه ممارسة بتاعت المؤسسية دي أو المبادئ بتاعت المؤسسية ده بنقدر نمارسها عشان نقدر نبني لنا نظام. إحنا ممكن نقدر من خلال هذا النظام نقدر ندير أمورنا بحكم القانون، بحكم العدالة، بحكم مفاهيم بتاعت الدولة الحديثة. لأنه هسه إحنا بقينا عايشين في عصر في دول في عصر متحضر مش كده؟ فإحنا عاوزين نتجاوز العصر الهجري ونمشي للعصر الحديث. بمعنى آخر في تفاوت طبعا في المجتمعات وفي المقدرة بتاعتها في أنها تقدر تدير قضايا بتاعتها وتدير حكم نفسها وكده. دي الحاجات اللي احنا بنحاول نتطرق عليها كويس. انت عشان تقدر تجيب نظام ونظام بتقدر تعتمد عليه وبيقدر يحفظ عليك حقوقك ويحفظ على اولادك حقوقهم، انت لازم تضع النظام، تبني نظام. فهسه احنا كما قدرنا فشلنا في انه احنا نبني نظام، وده كله بيجي على حساب بتاع قتل، على حساب بتاع ضياع بتاع ارواح المواطنين، سلب بتاعت البيوت وسلب بتاعت الاراضي، وحتى طردك من اراضيك تبقى بقى ريفوجي. احنا اصلا عندنا Equatorians nearly 2 million who have become refugees كويس، جروا من بلدهم. ليه؟ ده على حساب مين؟ فالقضيه ده ما بتقدر تبنيه على شنو؟ ما بتقدر تبنيه على يعني مثلا اللي هو sentimental arguments كويس. sentimental arguments ما عندها له هنا، يعني ما عندها له mileage. It doesn't have a mileage. In reality on the ground it doesn't have mileage. تعال تتعامل مع الدول، تتعامل مع جيرانك، تبني مؤسسات بتاعت إدارة بتاعت شؤون العيش والحياة كويس، وتمارس الحاجات دي كلها بصورة يتفق مع الحريات وكده والحاجات دي كلها. فدي الحاجات اللي احنا عاوزين نتفق عليهم كويس. لكن العقليه بتاعت الاس بي ال ام، العقليه بتاعت الاس بي ال ام والقيادات بتاعتها هي اللي فشلت لنا فرصه بتاعت اقامه بتاعت دوله حديثه ومتحضره. يعني هسه انا اخذني انا اوكي، انا من الاستوائيه، انا والله عمري هسه ذاته فاض كويس، وانا المفروض حتى لو كنت عندي علم وعندي بعض المعرفه كويس. انا اشتغلت محاضر بتاعت رياضيات كويس في جامعه جوبا، واشتغلت محاضر بتاعت رياضيات في حيريت وات يونيفرستي في ادنبرا هنا كويس. وانا كنت مشيت الجنوب، وانا كنت هو المدير بتاعت زين موبايل كمباني في الجنوب اوكي. وانا ساهمت في هناي في launching of the plus 211 code. احنا كنا اول موبايل كمباني كويس، عملنا implementation ل plus 211 code بتاعت ITU code كويس. وهنا باسم شنو ده يعني in other words we were the first mobile company that made a mobile call for the first time from South Sudan to Australia. كان في 4 companies زين MTN كويس جنتل وفي سوداني. وطبعا ال ITU code was given to South Sudan as an independent country. We're approaching to become an independent country, so we're given the code كويس. فإحنا كان في يعني مسابقة almost ما يشبه ممكن تسميها مسابقة. Who is going to launch this code first? And I happen to be one among many of these leaders of these companies and a South Sudanese at the same time. كويس. فكان علي أنه أنا أتسابق عشان أكون the first to beat these companies for us to launch the code first than the other companies. And that's what I achieved because I was conscious that this is a way of celebrating our South Sudanese being South Sudanese, right? وده بعد ده كله نواجه صعوبات بتاعت الفساد في جنوب السودان. انت ما بتقدر تستحملها. انت اشتغلت مثلا يعني professional in the West في شركات كبيرة عندك علم وعندك معرفة وبتتخذ قرارات وكده. لما تمشي الجنوب ده كله يرموه it's all set to ash. كويس. انت ما عندك فرصة حتى انك تقدم كويس تساهم في بناء بتاعت البلد لانه في واحد هناك قبلي وما عنده هنا ذاته competence عشان يدير الشغل اللي هو الدور فيه job بتاعته ما بيقدر and then intolerant of views. ده الوضع اللي احنا عايشين فيه في جنوب السودان. اوكي طيب يا اخي ليه مستقبل بتاعتي اذا كان مستقبل بتاعتي كده وطبعا المستقبل بتاعت اولاد بتاعتي ومستقبل بتاع الاستوائيين الثانيين هيكون كيف يعني في دولة يدار بهذه الطريقة وده كلها من قبلية وفشل بتاعت الاس بي ال ام لانه الناس بس عاوزين امسكوا الكراسي يقول احنا يا هو حاربنا احنا هو حررناكم احنا بنتخذ القرارات السياسية والمواطن يمشي في داهية. كويس. ليه كان الواحد هنا بيضيع عمره يكون قاعد شغال في الوست بدل ما شنو نساهم عشان نقدر to develop our country, to develop our people. لكن ده كله we are deprived because you are educated, because you are Equatorian. فالقضية بقى القرار السياسي في يد بتاع زول ما بيهمهم أمرك ولا أمر أهلك ولا أمر مستقبل بتاع استوائية. كيف أنت تعيش وتمشي في وضع زي ده؟ تقول إحنا بلدة يعني ما عارفين إنه هنا النظام بيصير كيف والدولة بتمشي كيف؟ إحنا عارفين الحاجات دي كلها عارفينها. إحنا ما منطق فإنه الناس مثلا الرجل المناسب في المكان المناسب. ليه إحنا الأبجديات دي ساعد ما قادرين نطبقها وعلى حساب مين؟ at whose expense؟ فإحنا نكون واقعيين ونكون يعني واعيين بقضية بتاعت نظم. كويس؟ نظم. How do you put systems in place? systems هيدير مجتمع، هيدير الدولة، هيدير الاقتصاد، يدير المعرفة عشان نقدر نتواكب مع العصر. مش كده؟ إحنا التعليم ده كله يعني يمشي فاضي سايد ما بنقدر نساهم ولا يكون عندنا سي أما يكون عندنا رأي في إدارة بتاعت الدولة ده ولا في قرارات تتعلق بالمستقبل بتاع الشعب. انت بتلعب يا زول ولا شنو؟ I think let's be objective. خلينا let's pivot away from this sentimental talk and focus on real issues. Otherwise we'll just be wasting our time talking about things which are not relevant at all. فده أنا كلام بقوله لك بصراحة وما فيه لبس ودوران وكده. فإذا كان المستوى الفكري بتاعت الناس بتتفاوض في قضايا بتهم مصير بتاعتنا، فده قضيه ما حيكون فيه مساومه، يعني ما في مساومه في القضيه دي. فالمهم ده نقطه كنت انا عايز اجيبه لك بس عشان نكون واضحين كويس. القضايا اللي احنا قاعدين نتطرق له، القضايا اللي هسي احنا بنواجهه دي قضايا مصيريه وقضايا تحتاج لحل استراتيجي، حل جذري كويس. انا والله شفتها، يعني انا كنت بحب many of these people even some of them are in the SPLA. انا كنت استاذ بتاعتهم بتاعت رياضيات في جامعه جوبا كويس في 1985، وفي واحدين طلعوا ومشى خشوا الغابه، وبقانا مو ده زميلي، احنا كنا معاه في الجامعه وبس مشى الاجازه وما رجع. انا بعرفه كويس، ناس لوكا بيوم والجماعه دي ده الدفعه دي. احنا خشينا مع لوكا بيور في جامعه خرطوم في نفس السنه، دخلنا في برلين في السنه الاولى بتاعت الجامعه، دخلنا سوا فيه كويس. وفي عدد كبير اذا كانوا ما قادرين ياثروا حتى في النظام اللي هم مثلا بيدعوا عنه عنده فوق يد ومد سياسي، لكن وين احنا why are not working together then؟ ففي حاجات، في قضايا كثيره، قضيه بتاعت القبليه واحتكار السلطه كويس. It's a big issue and it will keep us behind. That is the risk that we're running as Equatorians. That is the risk that we have to live with. وده احنا كنا يعني عاوزين نتحمل القضيه دي، هتكون في sacrifice. You're sacrificing your future, the future of your children, and just on the assumption that انه ان شاء الله هيكون في يوم ان شاء الله هندافع عن الارض بتاعتنا وكده وشنو. ما شوف حصل حاصل شنو الضرب الحاصل حصل الايام ده في ايسترن اكواتوريا. قتلوا 2 بوليس عشان البوليس ده ماشي يحموا المواطنين العزل من ناس يوث بتاعت البور اللي شالوها بقارهم، لكن هنا حولوا اسلحه بتاعتهم ضد المواطنين عشان ياخذوا الريفنج، لانه قال اهلهم قتلوا. انت تقوم تخش تمشي في تاون سنتر في نيمولا تقوم تضرب، حتى رمز الحكم زاده تضرب. طيب منو الحاكم هنا؟ البوليس ولا المواطن بتاع الجاي من بور وجايب بقاره؟ فاحنا ما نتلاعب، قضيه دي ما فيه مساومه، دي كلام ما بنتساوم فيه. تتساوم عليه حياتك في خطر. حس زي حياة بتاعت البوليس ده مشى راح، كان هو جاء في الشغل عارف كان حيموت اليوم ده، وفي واحد بس زعل وجاء وضرب زول، والجابوا ذاته شنو في ايسترن اكواتوريا ما بتعرفوا، جايب معه كتل حقه كده ليه؟ يجي يطرد ناس ويضرب في الناس ويضرب في الاهالي، يعمل ريبنج وكده وشنو ده. ده النظام اللي احنا عايشين فيه تحته هسه. So let's be objective. ما نخش في عواطف وحاجات بالشكل زي دي. العواطف ده زمن وفات. نكون واقعيين ونتعامل مع قضايا، نتفاعل مع قضايا يعني موضوعية كويس. احنا الواحد كان حسي تبقى تدرس وتشوف الجيل الجديد ماشي كيف، تدرسهم وتتفاعل مع الرؤى بتاعتهم، تتفاعل مع العقول بتاعت الشباب اليان اللي هو coming up كويس. كنا بنحب تدريس كشغل، يعني نحلوا فيه intellectual engagement، تفكير وحل بتاع مشاكل وحل بتاع problems وكده، تلقاه حاجه يعني gives you a lot of satisfaction. لكن هسي المؤسسات ذاتها احنا نقدر نمارسه في جنوب السودان ما موجوده. يعني احنا كلنا بعد كده نجري نشتغل في اوروبا، ما تشتغل يدوك سالري بتاعتك وبعدك تمشي في البيت وخلاص انتهى يعني. And so what? You're just about your family, right? It's about your family, right? So I didn't mean to be in any way offensive, لكن في نقاط I thought I should just really verbalize it. وهنا عاوزين نشوف انه في تطور في استوائية، انه يكون في شريحة جديدة وامل جديد في استوائية شبابه to rise up, to stand as a people who stand with dignity, their dignity and the dignity of their people, and to assert themselves. لأساس انه هم they are building a nation, they are building a state, and that's the bigger prize that one can work for in the entirety of their life, so that the rest of South Sudan will take us seriously, and the world will also take us seriously. And the idea noble, it's not about power, it's just about positions وكده ما في. دي قضية بتتعلق بالمستقبل بتاع الشعب ككل. وإذا كان ما في مفهوم بتاع الشعب في جنوب السودان في مناطق زي بحر الغزال والأبر نايل، ده ما بيعني أنه استوائية ما يفكر ويتقاضى على أساس هو بمعنى ومفهوم بتاعت أنها تبني نفسها كشعب وكدولة. ما يفوت عليه فرصة في أنه يبني دولة ممكن يقدر يعني يحافظ على الحقوق بتاعت الاستوائية في المستقبل والجيل بتاعت الاستوائية وكده. وشكرا.
شكرا جزيلا Dr. Hakim. Didi, if you're able to speak, please go ahead.
I think most of the people have started to drop, Ithaka. I don't see Didi around as well.
Yes, sir. I think Didi is not around. I don't know.
I'm right here. It's just that I can't speak right now. I'm just really
All
not
right.
on my side of mine.
Okay, because we just tried to finalize, and I think for the moment we're just not going to have much to speak about. But I want to appreciate Dr. Hakim. لو أنت عندك إضافة Dr. Hakim في الأشياء اللي قلناها، لكن I think الوضع زي ما أنت قلت واضح يعني. Equatoria has a lot to offer for themselves, and I don't think I have to add much. You sum it up all, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, shukran, and I hope this journey will continue. الأيام الجاية والأسابيع الجاية والشهور الجاية إن شاء الله كله. We will keep the journey going, and I hope many Equatorians will join us in this journey to amplify it, to make it work, to make it happen. It's the greatest thing that we can do together as Equatorians. Thank you.
Thank you again. So I will end this clubhouse room, and then I will end the Facebook there. Again, Dr. Hakim. So you said tomorrow you have something to do, right? On Facebook.
Yes.
Can you remind the people so عشان يقدر يعرف؟
Yes, exactly. Yeah. إحنا عندنا EBC Equatorial Broadcasting Corporation session هتكون زي الساعة 6 بالمساء UK time من 6 ل 8 تقريبا just 2 hours, and then soon after that بيكون عندنا EPA Equatorial People's Alliance meeting. This is an internal meeting for members of EPA. وبعده من الاجتماع ذاك هيصدر توصية maybe على أساس إنه إحنا ننادي الاجتماع عام بالنسبة للاستوائيين كل ما كنا دائما بنعمل ده من خلال هنا Equatoria Town Hall, which is open to all Equatorians to come, لأنه في قضايا حسي قضايا الساعة وتطورات الحاصلة إحنا عاوزين نتكلم فيه، وعاوزين نتكلم فيه في نطاق مغلق بيهموا الاستوائيين بس، لكن اللي هنتكلموا في الاي بي سي هيكون اوبن للببليك جاست تو هايلايت تطورات الساعه الحاصله في الاستوائيه، كتل ونهب والحاجات اللي حصلت خلال ال 24 hours اللي فاتت وكده. عايزين نسير القضيه ده and then we will have our internal meeting as members of EPA ومنه بنقدر نصل للتوصيات وmaybe هتكون في proposal بتاعت انه ننادي لاجتماع اكبر لكن بيكون مغلق برضه لكل الاستوائيين، وبنطالب كل ال Equatorian Nationalists to come and attend that meeting. بنقدر نعمله في وقت مناسب usually about the same time like 8 o'clock in the evening normally, لكن we will have to communicate it widely so that as many Equatorians as possible can attend the meeting. So that is really what I just wanted to let people know. فإحنا هنكون هناك مع ناس ألما as usual suspects, you know, the same faces, the same people that we normally gather there. Yeah. في حاجات كتيرة إحنا عاوزين نشارك فيه، وإحنا عندنا يعني معلومات وريبورتس بتصلنا من الاستوائية من في الظرف بتاعت التطورات الحاصلة، تطورات الساعة. That's all I want to say. Yeah, thank you. And I want to appreciate everybody who attended today's sessions and really value and appreciate that. And we hope, and I personally hope to continue to support this debate, you know, on whenever I'm available, and in the next, you know, sessions and all of that, I'll, you know, make sure that I have time to come and attend and contribute. Thank you.
Thank you Dr. Hakim. هيكون عندنا مواضيع آخر إن شاء الله في الأوقات الجاي. طبعا مواضيع مسجلة في الكالندر. Sometimes you know, if things happen, we might postpone it, but I will make sure I'll inform you. And plus, إننا هنعمل معك كمان inshallah next week we will start doing like interviewing our Equatorian advocate leaders, you know, Equatorian, you know, nationalist leaders, including you, Mr. Hakim, and others who will be with us. So we bring you guys as guests in Equatoria Free Forum. So the broadcasting is not going to be in Clubhouse. We will try if we can put it in Clubhouse, but we want to put it in Facebook, in YouTube, and Twitter. So because we wanted to go more extreme to the other areas where we need some of those international and others to know the faces of Equatoria, those voices and those great you know, advocates for the interests of Equatoria. So definitely we're going to schedule this next week, inshallah. Dr. Hakim will be with us. So we'll have one-on-one interview, and the others, also our hero ladies, you know, Didi, Dr. Alma, and others, Akolia, and all these ladies who have spoken out, and yes, and more. And then from there, we'll see, because I want people to know that we have real great people who are speaking for Equatoria. It's not one person, it's many. And this is how leadership is built. Leadership is not one person.
It's a movement.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly. You know, لأنه طبعا هسه أوهام بتاع الناس قال منو يقائدكم قلنا له إحنا كلنا قادة لأنه هم لسه ما فاهمين الفكرة ده. So we will show them, and it's a movement of the people, by the people, for the people, and that's what we want to build. Also, the nation, you know, by a government of the people, for the people, by the people, which is the republic, you know, of Equatoria. So thank you again. God bless. Until next time, and I really appreciate your time, Dr. Hakim. Good night to you, and good night to all those who are in Europe and also in Africa. And in Middle East, of course, and also in other countries. Good morning, good afternoon, and until next time. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Yes, I'll continue with Facebook, and I'll just shut down the Facebook in a few minutes. Thank you. I'll end this Clubhouse. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right, my fellow Equatorians. Thank you again. I have nothing much to say but to say thank you for you guys being with us here. With you, Odysseus, Ethica, and those brother Hakim Dario and Didi, and earlier was Dr. Alma. Unfortunately, Taban انتهينا من هناك. So until next time. So please just follow up with the schedule. Until the next time, we'll talk to you. ربنا يكون معكم. Let me put this music to Equatoria, and then from there we're done. Sorry about that, guys. Somebody calling me. I don't know. Just give me a second, please, guys. Oh, just give me a second. Oh, Mr. Aiko, let me see. I think Aiko wanted to say something. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Aiko. Yes, I'm live right now. I'm trying to close the.
Yeah, I know you're live, like if you were at you in Western Bahar Ghazal. Woman understand Kilimata Bantu and Muntu. Maybe
Yes,
you
I
never
saw
read
it. I just saw it, but I didn't know what. Yeah, because I remember he said that. Yes.
Yeah, the word Muntu, Muntu there is a singular for what you call the battle language.
Okay.
Yeah, the plural so again the Bantu. Itan Baganda sa Uganda de Kulu, mush?
Yes.
Nas Basoga de Kulu. These are Bantu groups. Bantu actually means plural. Lakini zolo wahekina do muntu.
Okay, muntu.
Yala kanta dakal fi Kenya, itaena Kikuyu de Kulu to Kenyatta.
Yes, Kikuyus, yeah.
Yeah, these are part of the Bantus, Nas Baluyas. They are all Bantus. Lakini Bantu de Kilma Kebi is then again the Bari speaking tribes the Kulu. That's why sometimes even when the Western Bahar, they do not understand argument and never understand. As Equatorians, they never understand. Bisum Sundi never understand. Uganda never understand. Kenya, they don't understand it here. Yeah, brother Isaka.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we want to teach them the truth. The truth is, Al-Muntu is a singular word. Yeah, Al-Bantu is people. Bantu means people. Yeah, Al-Muntu means an individual. Defi Bantu language. When as there is in a Bantu language, you want to cave that. Yeah, like you can understand the Kulu Bantus, what the Bantus, like they know that Bantu is a plural word. It's not a singular word. It's a singular word about it's a Muntu. Yeah, like under East Africa Kulu, mean Baganda region, Bustoga region. Aizol al Konus language, the Muntu Zekulu, Kilmarines in two. The last N, T, and U, the Kulu. Begin at in two. Manato can listen to Kital and two, Manato, you are a Bantu. Yala can you individual Gikale, the Galaka, it does no, you are a Muntu. Muntu, what does Muntu mean? Muntu means you belong to the group of the Bantu groups. Yellow that one are son as Luos, and Rafi Kenya. Luos it is that of East Africa, for Uganda. Kalam in Kenya. Mundakalo, Ajata, Luos, Mundakal, Luos, Taram in Western Baragazal, Jamu Munakul. Minasa will the Kul Campbell Talua before Dinka Jafogo. Kelmuma argue, Anabara Fielta, Ajere, what you call Western Baragazal, Kelmuma Kabasitako.
Yes,
Sana Rezik Zakaria, Alkan Governor Tomonde, Yana Saraklet, and Asa Governor. These were my colleagues in university.
Yes.
So now as Kelmum Kabasitakon, into Equatorians, they should not be lied upon.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we can clarify Lomo Kelmum Fahim. A Muntu is a Muntu. A Muntu is a Muntu. Muntu is part of the greater, what to call the Bantu groups.
Great.
Kilimaja Kabasita Mazulta Jereta Western Bahar Ghazal. No, in Equatorians we know it. And we know our region school of the Equatorian. In Equatorian, whether we like it, we don't like it, Kilima Jim Kalam Fartum on the Zato. Nazi Dinka Amala Mukamu.
Thank you.
They don't even understand our truth. As a Gilgo Shiluk, as a shitting Equatorians. If we decide just now to secede from South Sudan, Shiluk Mukwen. Mukaifim. Because the separatists or the nationalists, Equatorians, they can go for
Oh, this is yes. Yes,
yeah, brother.
It's ethical.
They're scared. They're scared.
I know. Yesterday we had
Even
a
the system,
challenge
the
with those
government,
guys.
someone to build that money, they're scared because we are knowing the truth.
Very true.
Yeah, I just want to encourage you, continue what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yellow sisters and Mark, they could continue what you guys are doing. If we don't turn now, we have to fight for the next generation Equatorians.
Thank you so much.
They love it, they don't love it. Let them screw themselves. I was journalist in Kuburi, journalist of Bahar, we don't care.
Yes, sir.
Nas awareness and the school that this is the way to go. Shukran laki shadid.
You're welcome. It's,
Dr. Hakim when he was in your show.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm using this iPhone, unfortunately, but I will. Hana, we will have a topic. Even we will host you.
Yeah, I don't want to smile when he was still attending your shows.
Yeah, طبعا we are battling so many, what they call it, a mind game, a mind war, if I would say. لأنه ناس upper Nile, they're trying to kind of like silence us, especially as ما انت قلت سياسيين unfortunately سياسيين شلك بيقوا خطيرين جدا يعني للأسف.
They already failed.
Yeah, بيقوا عاوزين يلعبوا ضد استوائي وبيقوا في استوائيين very receptive to this ideology بتاع إنه هم يكونوا يعني بيقول شنو نوع من الناس التبعيين يعني they will follow.
No, these people will bring them down within the next 2 years.
already هم فشلوا يعني صراحة السياسيين المعارضة فشلوا. يا هم فشلوا فشل سريع خاصة
هم فشل no batal.
Yeah.
هل بس نجيسي بلون نماسو نعمل موناسا.
That's true.
Yeah, we want to stand our grounds. We get fast.
Oh no, we already know what our objective. Yeah, we already know our objective as a nationalist. Separation to Equatoria is going to be. The only thing طبعا هسه احنا هنخط الخطط بتاعنا في in the table, and we will kind of like هنوري مجموعة الشعب بتاعنا Equatoria how we're going to start doing this. عندنا طبعا برنامج جايين نتكلم عنه، واحد منهم البرنامج الاقتصادي economic plan for the future of Equatorian independence. Also we're going to talk about طريقة التكوين بتاع الدولة الاستوائية. What نوع بتاع حكومة. Yes, we're going to have an open discussion. Yes. Oh yeah.
Your cards, and this is our card.
Yes, of course we have. We have.
We know how to govern it.
Yes.
Mendo is a poker games. Wadilo mkaza itu kan Equatorians or Muarasina litanazi junub takonde o junub de namaderino.
Asa nazal hasasin. تقول لهم muarrasin بكوركو. بيقول.
Mamo kanazo korko lemo korko. Kanu nazo jara bado fi bahar kibu jara. They cannot change my mind.
لما تقول لهم.
They cannot change my mind. My brain cannot be even diverted.
It's funny, yeah.
Cards, now this is what we have. Now show me your cards. After Cape.
Of course ما عندهم بلان. أنا بقول لك صراحة أنا سألنا حتى المعارضين بتاعنا هم المعارضين اللي هم بيقولوا معارضة. طبعا إحنا ما بنعترف بالمعارضة ولا النظام. إحنا بنشوفهم كلهم هم نفس الجزء بتاع الشجرة واحد ده. معارضة ما عنده مخططات اقتصادية أو استراتيجية عشان كيف يغير الوضع. بعدين البلد ده البلد ده جاي يقع في دين خطير جدا. عشان كده قلنا انفصال الاستوائي هو افضل طريقه، وده حاجه الوحيد اللي بيقدر يبدا شابتر جديد في Equatoria, because Equatoria has all the potential, and also the other regions اللي جايين ينقسموا بيبدوا شابتر جديد، لانه هسه الخطر كنا قاعدين في هذا الكتله بتاع جنوب السودان احنا هنخسر اكثر. So separation بتاعنا is the best way for us. وبعدين حتى عشان نقدر نرجع اهلنا اللي هجروهم برا ده ونقدر نبني نأسس دولة. We will tell you, like in the assessment we made, it takes like about 20 years we can actually become equally to other countries.
Let me stamp the knowledge that you're talking. Mush? Western Bahar Ghazal.
Yes, sir.
The Shiluk land. Mush?
Yes, sir.
Won't scared of Equatoria to secede.
In particular, the Upper Nile.
Because where are they going to end?
The Upper Nile. I won't say Bahar Ghazal, but Upper Nile, I have noticed, especially Siyasin with well, they have to fight hard.
We've worked there as a we kill him.
That's true.
So we know the truth.
So we will definitely have a topic on that.
For Equatorial unity. Unity Equatorial no matter him, dear brother.
I know, I see that. They tried.
Preach Equatorial unity, we don't care.
That's true.
Can try standing in Bara, like we know our great grandfathers can Aishin Bara.
Absolutely.
In a bar from boundary to boundary, can no chief or a sub chief, Malta he give when control he give control he end when.
Thank you.
Yala think Terafi Nusanas. Kanta Gebila, Takuku, Weleta Gebila, Tafojulu, Weleta Takakwa. We know all our boundaries.
That's true.
Magui County is composed of 2 big tribes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Lakini Kulu Baharos no boundaries tomon. Masab chief tomon Kulu. Yala Mulena Harakat.
In a community
big area Lotuko, Ita Bar of Hajade Kulu. Salafi area Tajeta de Dinger. Ita Bar of Harakade Kulu. Abuta Dr. Hakim Dema is the paramount chief at the Dinger. Yala under him only chiefs, command sub chiefs.
Awesome.
Under his father. In a matter of boundaries, that's why there is no conflict in Equatoria.
Exactly. Well, history in Tanama Bib 1800.
Last group of origin Tomon, chiefs, administration, your brother. Idara.
That's true.
Equatorians be out of Idara.
Yes, thank you. So I want to say to our audiences, until next time, sorry, network. Sorry, Mr. Iko. أنا جاي أختم الحلقة ده هنا, and we will continue talking, but I just want to say to our audience who are listening to us, because we're discussion, that we're going to have a topic on the economic, but this is going to be in the future. But first, we're going to introduce our advocates in the Equatorian separation or independent or self-determination. We're going to have this, hosting them one by one. And inshallah, haikun fi Equatoria Free Forum. So please follow us and try to also share it in those rooms, on those pages of yours, because our enemies, unfortunately, they don't like for us to share our pages, because they always see that we are opposing to them. Because of course we are opposing them because we speak on the facts that we Equatorian have decided that we don't want to be part of South Sudan, and nothing can stop us there, and we always determine on that. Lil-asaf, it's not something that we love to see departing from what we were, but when you see danger, you need to choose safety, and so we choose safety by departing from this so-called South Sudan. So God bless those people all over who are suffering, and in particular our people of Greater Equatoria. May God bless you guys. Let me put the music, and from there we end the room. And thank you again for watching us. Until next time.
Kala, thank you very much, brother.
Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na, yeah. Banana kala. Na 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 na. I need a one. I need a sour. Oh yeah. I need a Equatorian. Nasawa. I need a Equatorian. بلد واحد علينا Equatorian علينا Equatorian. Oh yeah, kanita miniambio, kanita mintori, weleta min Juba, yeah. Anina Equatorian, Teresia sama kesi manina. We strong, we stand together. Kanina gulu wahi, Equatoria biraba. Yapigwa pijama, asan bele na biraba. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Oh yeah, give us ipanabule. Oh yeah, anina Equatorian. Nasawa, anina Equatorian. Beled wahid, anina Equatorian. Anina Equatorian. Oh yeah, kanita zande, kanita mai, au kukuye, anina Equatorian. Kelene na hivyo nafusina, kebili ya kede maferiganina. Salam wa sahaba, behaja derino, hasan belet na biraba, arif mabisaido. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Give us ipanabule. Anina Equatorian. Nasawa, anina Equatorian. Beled wahid, anina Equatorian. Anina Equatorian.
Nina kulu sawa jama. So my Panangala. I love my people and I'm the voice.
Acholi ya buka ya baka, kutika balanda mari, kakuwa kiliku Lambo lugoya, acholi kukosa mulu, nyangara mure mari, mundare, nyambara, kutumu mari makutudo, lugara bugaya lope, lulu kukosa
Mondo
nare,
anakulu nasi sawa. Magi hata bigesi manena, siasa mabigesi manena, anina wahi.
Alrighty, again and again. Thank you so much. Until next time, God bless. See you later. Be safe. Happy Friday for those who are going to wake up Friday, or those in other countries it's Friday. Until next time, and be blessed. And stay strong, and long live Greater Equatoria, our Equatoria, our land, our people, our power. Until next time. Let me just end this room. Yes. Bye for now.